Chapter 1421. Zheng Tai did not dare to offend Bai Yuchen. In fact, Huo Gongbi also looked down on people from the mysterious heaven realm. However, Chu Xiu's tough attitude just now had indeed angered Huo Gongbi. In order to catch up with the Taoist master, he had been in seclusion in the Three Pristines Hall all year round and rarely went out. This also made his character less tactful and forbearing than Zheng Tai, and more aggressive and sharp. With the Three Pristine Palace's power, it had been a long time since anyone dared to go against the Three Pristine Palace like Chu Xiu. Compared to Chu Xiu, Bai Yuchen's little tricks even seemed a little cute. "Alright, I'll leave this matter to you. I only want results." Bai Yuchen laughed and said, "Don't worry, brother Tsang Yu. When has the mysterious heaven realm ever made a mistake?" After saying that, Bai Yuchen turned around and left. Zheng Tai sighed and said, "Don't forget what the Tao Venerate said before. The mysterious heaven realm is only kept to show the Daoist that the Three Pristine Palace is not that overbearing. In fact, the people of the mysterious heaven realm seem humble, but they have ulterior motives. They can be used but cannot be put in an important position. But now, you're using someone like Bai Yuchen to deal with Chu Xiu. I feel that this matter will not benefit either side. It's better to agree to Chu Xiu's conditions and trade Dugu Weiwei's blood essence. Don't forget what happened to the Sanskrit sect. Chu Xiu is not to be trifled with. The Tao Venerate also instructed us not to cause trouble before he returns." At this moment, Huo Gongbi suddenly revealed a smile on his face. "Brother Qicheng, am I such an impulsive person in your eyes?" Zheng Tai was stunned. "You're not impulsive. If I didn't stop you just now, you would have fought with Chu Xiu." Huo Gongbi said indifferently, "Although I haven't come into contact with Chu Xiu, since all of you said that Chu Xiu is difficult to deal with, then let him be. Therefore, the Three Pristine Palace will not personally take action this time. Since the mysterious heaven realm wants to make a move, let them do it. Since it's done, then it's done. We've obtained the Daoist scriptures, and we haven't disobeyed the Tao Master's orders. If things don't work out, we'll be the peacemaker for once. When the mysterious heaven realm can't hold on any longer, we'll make a move to save the mysterious heaven realm, just like how you saved the sword sect of the world last time. Anyway, no matter what, our Three Pristines Palace will not suffer a loss, right?" Zheng Tai could not help but feel a chill in his heart when he saw Huo Gongbi's appearance. He suddenly felt that Huo Gongbi was like a person, like a young Tao master. The young Taoist master was not like this. He was virtuous and respected, quiet and indifferent. It seemed that he did not care about the disputes in Jianghu, but in fact, he secretly controlled the direction of the entire Jianghu. Part of Huo Gongbi's anger was because he was unhappy with Chu Xiu's tough attitude, but most of it was just an act for Bai Yuchen. Zheng Tai sighed and decided not to care about these things anymore. Although he was from the same generation as the Taoist master, he was actually much older than the Taoist master. There was no hope for the ninth heaven, so he did not want to fight for these things. It was no longer important to him whether the next Taoist master was Huo Gongbi, Su Guishan, or the talented Fang Yizhen. "Forget it, it's good that you know what you're doing. I won't get involved. However, you'd better be careful. Be careful that Bai Yuchen will secretly play some tricks and bring our Three Pristines Palace into the karma. At the same time, you have to be more careful of Chu Xiu. He's not easy to deal with, especially since this is the lower realm and not the Daoist." After saying that, Zheng Tai turned around and left to go into seclusion. At this time, after Chu Xiu returned from the Three Pristines Palace, he was not prepared to take the next step. The Three Pristines Palace wanted to forcefully buy the Taoist scriptures, but Chu Xiu could not also forcefully buy the blood essence of Dugu Weiwei from the Three Pristines Palace, right? Chu Xiu was not that arrogant. However, Chu Xiu was very puzzled. What did the Taoist master discover? He actually did not allow his subordinates to touch the blood essence of Dugu Weiwei. Since he could not figure it out, Chu Xiu did not think too much about it. There were still many things he could not figure out, such as the tortoise-shell divination he obtained from the myriad Dao Heavenly Palace. The divination of this martial immortal level divination grandmaster from 10,000 years ago was closely related to him. Or, it could be said that the divination grandmaster was even more closely related to the current era. Thus, Chu Xiu wanted to find someone to decipher the divination. When it came to divination, the first person Chu Xiu thought of was naturally Master Yuan Ji. However, since Master Yuan Ji joined Chu Xiu, he actually did not work as a divination grandmaster most of the time, but as a formation master. It was unknown if he still remembered what his old profession was. Chu Xiu went straight to the southern barbaric land and took Master Yuan Ji out. He threw the tortoise shell to him and said, "I found this in a relic from 10,000 years ago. Take a look and see if you can decipher the meaning." Master Yuan Ji held the tortoiseshell in a trance. "How many years has it been?" Cult Master Chu finally found out that I was actually the #1 divine divination of the former Northern Yen. However, when he saw the words engraved on the tortoiseshell and the various lines that seemed chaotic but contained some kind of mysterious law, Master Yuan Ji's face suddenly collapsed. He could not understand the things on it at all. Master Yuan Ji was previously known as the #1 divine divination of the Northern Yen, but in fact, his title itself was extremely exaggerated. Among the three countries, the Eastern Qi Dao sects were the most powerful. Two of the three major Dao sects were in Eastern Qi, and most of the small Daoist temples and so on were in Eastern Qi. Therefore, there were not many martial artists from Dao sects in the Northern Yen. In addition, divination was only a small branch of Dao sects, so one could imagine how exaggerated his title was. Although he later obtained the inheritance of the Skycry demon exalted and learned a lot of divination secret techniques, it was obvious that he was still a little far from the martial immortal realm divination grandmaster of the past. Master Yuan Ji said carefully, "Cult Master, the result of this divination is a little complicated. It's a little different from our 9 palaces and 8 trigrams divination method. Moreover, its core involves the power of law and is close to the changes of the heavenly Dao. Therefore, the lines outlined on the tortoiseshell are not Dao patterns, but changes of karma. Everyone has a different understanding of the changes of karma, so it's even more difficult to decipher it." Speak human. Chu Xiu glared at Master Yuan Ji. Master Yuan Ji had no choice but to answer honestly. Master Yuan Ji could only answer honestly, "I don't understand." Chu Xiu had already expected such a situation. He said in a deep voice, "You can't understand it, but it doesn't mean others can't. Who in the lower realm is proficient in divination? Find one." There were actually many Daoist who were proficient in divination, but most of them were from Dao sects, which was the 3 pure temple. Now that Chu Xiu had just fallen out with them, how could he ask the 3 pure temple for help? Master Yuan Ji said without even thinking, "The Great Light Temple's Karma Meditation Hall's first seat, Sujing, Sabodhi Monastery Xiaomo." Chu Xiu looked at Master Yuan Ji. Had this guy been too bored recently that he was starting to get arrogant? Even if Chu Xiu could find the 2 he mentioned, they would probably kill themselves on the spot instead of helping Chu Xiu. Seeing Chu Xiu's unfriendly gaze, Master Yuan Ji reacted and hurriedly said, "Sect Master, please forgive me. Let me think about it." A moment later, Master Yuan Ji suddenly said, "I got it. I got it. Green Celestial Mountain's perfected Master Xuancheng is proficient in Dao scriptures and has a deep understanding of divination. Although I've only interacted with him once, I'm ashamed of my inferiority. I dare say that his understanding of Dao techniques is not inferior to Lu Changlu, Ling Yunzi, or even the current powerhouses of the lower realm like the old Celestial Master." After saying that, Master Yuan Ji added, "Strictly speaking, it's only about Dao techniques. No one knows how good his martial arts are. Not many people in the lower realm have seen him fight." Chu Xiu knocked his head. Perfected Master Xuancheng? Why did he find the name familiar? Why haven't I heard of this name? What's his background? Master Yuanji said, it's normal that you haven't heard of him because he's not famous. Perfected Master Xuancheng was an itinerant cultivator and became a Daoist priest halfway through his life. It's said that he had a rough life before he became a monk. He was chased out by his parents, his wife ran away with someone else, and his son didn't seem to be his. He went through many twists and turns and ended up in a Daoist temple to become a Daoist priest. From then on, he traveled to all the Daoist temples in eastern Qi, western Chu, northern Yan, and even overseas, exchanging Dao techniques with people. They only talked about Dao techniques and not martial arts. That's when I got to know him. When I met him, he had almost mastered Dao techniques. Other than finding a small Daoist temple to preach Dao techniques in his free time, he didn't leave any impression on the pugilistic world. So, not to mention that you haven't heard of him, I'm afraid even Wind-Sweeping Tower doesn't have any information about him. After hearing Master Yuanji's words, a figure popped up in Chu Xiu's mind. It was when he was still young and competing with others on the Longhu leaderboard. In eastern Qi, he met an old Daoist priest who was explaining the understanding of the three flowers at one's prominence and the 5 Qi's unifications. Although it was not a technique, it was of great help to Chu Xiu. It could be said that the old Daoist priest had indirectly helped him break through. Chu Xiu stretched out his hand and drew a line in the air. The rules distorted and turned into mist, and the figure of perfected Master Xuancheng from his memory appeared. Are you talking about this person? Master Yuanji hurriedly nodded and said, that's him. Cult Master, you know perfected Master Xuancheng too? An unfathomable smile appeared on Chu Xiu's face as he said, I've met him before. I even have some karmic ties with him. He can be considered an old friend. Do you know where he is now? I do. Perfected Master Xuancheng has been cultivating in seclusion on Green Deity Mountain for many years. He rarely goes to preach Dao anymore. Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, get Tangya to follow you to Green Deity Mountain and invite perfected Master Xuancheng out. Be more polite. Master Yuanji nodded and brought Tangya to invite perfected Master Xuancheng. However, Chu Xiu stroked his chin, feeling that it was a little strange. Meeting an old friend could be considered a kind of fate. I wonder if perfected Master Xuancheng still remembers me. Chapter 1422. Suaxian Mountain was located in a forest in the north of Dongqi. Although its name was pleasing to the ear, it was not a place of great feng shui. It was just an ordinary mountain. A few years ago, an old Daoist brought a dozen young Daoists here. They built a Daoist temple on the mountain and planted some saplings. They also treated the people in the villages around Green Immortal Mountain for free. Only then did this small mountain gain some liveliness. At the peak of Green Immortal Mountain was a simple Daoist temple made of bricks. Reverend Xiancheng wore a loose white linen Daoist robe. He held a Daoist scripture in his left hand and a pot of tea in his right. He sat at the entrance of the Daoist temple and started to instruct the young Daoists on the day's work. Changning, today, you will be the abbot of the Daoist temple. You will be in charge of interpreting the divination sticks for the pilgrims who come and go. Remember, most people only want to hear good words and not bad words. If you get any bad divination sticks, remember to be tactful with your words. Changjing, bring a few brothers to Samli village. Many people in the village have been sick recently. It should be the plague. Bring some medicine and come back early. Also, Shaolu, the tri-origin vermilion fruits in the backyard need to be taken care of. There should be some ripe ones. After picking them, gather some ingredients for the spirit gathering pill and refine it. If you are not confident in refining it, go find your third brother for help. A 10-year-old Daoist nodded and suddenly asked in confusion, Master, is someone going to Foundation establishment? Reverend Xiancheng shook his head and said, no, it's the grandson of the Li village's old village chief. He was born weak and sickly. The last time I saw him, he probably won't live for more than 3 months. Refine a spirit-gathering pill for him. After consuming it, he will be reborn. As for what he looks like in the end, that will depend on his luck. Reverend Xianxia turned to the other disciples and said, "The rest of you, if you have nothing to do, go clean the herb garden in the backyard or go memorize the Daoist scriptures. There will be an exam in a month. If you can't pass, you will be punished." At this moment, many black-clothed martial artists walked up Green Immortal Mountain. All of them had a murderous aura. The leader was a ferocious-looking one-eyed brawny man. He carried a blood-colored ghost-head blade as he swaggered over and said, "Do you know who I am?" When the surrounding Taoist priests saw this, their eyes revealed fear. Only perfected Xuancheng stood out and shook his head. "I don't know." The burly man laughed and said, "You don't know? Today, I will let you know. I am the leader of Black Wind Ridge Blood Wolf Stronghold. People call me, Crazy Killing Blood Wolf, Chen Guang. I heard that there's a tri-origin vermilion fruit tree on this Green Immortal Mountain. There aren't many warriors in your Taoist temple, so what's the use of raising this kind of treasure? I've taken a fancy to this thing and I'm too lazy to rob you poor Taoist priests. I'll give you 100 taels of silver to sell the ternary scarlet fruit tree to me and use the silver to buy some meat to eat. Isn't that better than guarding that broken tree that you can't use?" Anger appeared in the eyes of the surrounding young Daoist priests. What was the difference between this and robbery? The tri-origin vermilion fruit tree was a spirit herb used to refine pills. It was not something that could be bought with ordinary money. In their opinion, 100 taels of silver was simply robbery. Perfected Xuancheng sighed and said, "Although the tri-origin vermilion fruit tree is a spirit herb, it's really useless to you guys. What the tri-origin vermilion fruit contains is only the purest essence energy, so it's used to refine basic foundation building spirit pills. For ordinary people, such a spirit pill can cleanse the marrow and remove the hair, but for martial artists like you, it's not as useful as meditating for a day. Moreover, the tri-origin vermilion fruit tree is very delicate. Only by taking good care of it can it continue to bear fruit. If you guys keep it, I'm afraid it will wither in less than a month." That Chen Guang sneered, raised the ghost-head saber in his hand and pointed at Daoist Xuancheng, saying fiercely, "Less nonsense. Who cares if it's useful or not, even if I have to eat it like a fruit, I'm going to take this tri-origin vermilion fruit tree today. If you poor Taoist priests don't hand it over, then don't blame this saber for recognizing the tree and not the person." Daoist Xuancheng shook his head and sighed. He once swore that he would not make a move. But not making a move didn't mean that he would be trampled on, and it didn't mean that he couldn't defend. It was just that after such a scene today, he was afraid that the peaceful days that he had just enjoyed for a few years would not be able to continue. At this moment, a sharp scream suddenly came, and a powerful force pierced through the void. Almost at the moment that the scream appeared, the ghost-head saber in Chen Guang's hand had already shattered. It wasn't torn by any hidden weapon, but by pure qi energy. In mid-air, more than 10 martial artists came over and slowly landed. Each of them had an extremely powerful aura, and the young man who led the group had even reached the level of attracting the power of heaven and earth around him. Master Yuanji walked out from behind Tangya and smiled at Daoist Xuancheng, saying, "Daoist Xuancheng, I haven't seen you for many years. How have you been?" Daoist Xuancheng sighed again. In fact, it was very good just now. Even if he had to leave Green Immortal Mountain because of an accident, it was also good. But now that he saw Master Yuanji coming with Tangya and the others, he suddenly felt a little bad. Tangya walked over with a smile on his face. He cupped his fists towards perfected Xuancheng and said respectfully, "Kunlun Holy Cult subordinate, Blood Fong Hall's Hall Master, Tangya, is under the cult master's orders to invite perfected Xuancheng to the Holy Cult for a meeting." After speaking, Tangya also glanced at Chen Guang and said faintly, "Daoist Xuancheng, do you want this guy to live or die? Or should I say, live a life worse than death? My holy cult has many means, and I'm sure that Daoist Xuancheng can vent his anger and make you satisfied." Hearing Tang Ye's words, Chen Guang's vision darkened, and he almost fainted. He was just a lowly bandit, but even if he was lowly, he knew what walking in the air represented. He also knew what the Kunlun devil cult represented. Thinking of this, Chen Guang immediately threw away the ghost head saber in his hand and walked in front of Daoist Xuancheng and Tang Ye with his head held high. Just when his men thought that he would die passionately, Chen Guang knelt straight on the ground with a plop, shouting with tears and snot, "Hero, please spare my life." Tang Ye looked at him with a faint smile, "I'm not a hero. Whether I can spare you or not, it still depends on Daoist Xuancheng." Daoist Xuancheng sighed and waved his hand, "Let's go. Don't be a bandit anymore. With the arrival of the new era, this will be a flourishing age of martial arts. Joining any sect will be better than being a bandit." Chen Guang kowtowed like pounding garlic and immediately left with his men. "Daoist Xuancheng, can we go now?" Tang Ye looked at Daoist Xuancheng. Daoist Xuancheng laughed and said, looking at Hall Master Tang's appearance, "I can't refuse." Tang Ye said with a serious face, "Daoist Xuancheng can just call my name because if Hall Master Tang calls me that, it will make me sound a bit feminine. Moreover, my saint sect has always convinced people with virtue. How can we do that kind of thing to force people? It's just that my sect master and Daoist Xuancheng are old friends. At this time, he just wants to meet and reminisce about the old days. Daoist Xuancheng should agree, right?" Master Yuan Ji on the side patted his head with a helpless look. Previously, Chu Xiu told Tang Ye to be polite, but it seemed that Tang Ye misunderstood the meaning. He was indeed very polite now, but you have a fake smile on your face. Who would believe that you didn't force him? Chu Xiu asked Tang Ye to be polite, not to be polite. Fortunately, Daoist Xuancheng didn't get angry. He just shook his head and smiled bitterly, "If I knew this, I should have done a divination for myself this morning. Everyone, please wait for a while. I will arrange it and go with you." After giving a few instructions to his disciples, Daoist Xuancheng took a step forward. The astral wind and clouds condensed under his feet, dragging him forward. Tang Ye's eyes narrowed suddenly. This Daoist Xuancheng is actually a martial immortal. A first heaven martial artist. Even Master Yuan Ji was incomparably shocked. Although he could guess that Daoist Xuancheng's strength was extraordinary, he didn't expect him to be a martial immortal. Seeing their expressions, Daoist Xuancheng said, "Thanks to the essence Qi wave, when I was reciting Daoist scriptures a few days ago, I suddenly had an epiphany and stepped into the martial immortal realm just like that. However, the two of you don't have to be surprised. I'm not very useful as a martial immortal. I'm not proficient in the path of killing. Not to mention divine powers, I don't even know many martial techniques. I don't deserve the title of martial immortal." Although Daoist Xuancheng said that, a martial immortal was a martial immortal. Tang Ye was also glad that he was very polite just now. Otherwise, the result would be really terrible. After bringing Daoist Xuancheng back to the southern barbaric Kunlun devil cult's branch palace, Chu Xiu actually personally welcomed them at the door. Seeing Daoist Xuancheng and matching him with the person in his memory, Chu Xiu said with a smile on his face, "Daoist Xuancheng, do you still recognize me? Speaking of which, Daoist Xuancheng is half a teacher to me. Back then, when I stepped into the 3 flowers at one's prominence and the 5 Qis unifications, it was all thanks to your guidance." Daoist Xuancheng said softly, "Cult Master Chu, you must be joking. Countless people have listened to this humble Daoist's teachings. However, only you, Cult Master Chu, have gained something. The credit does not belong to this humble Daoist. Rather, it belongs to you, Cult Master Chu, who possesses astonishing talent." Looking at Chu Xiu, whose aura was so strong that he didn't dare to probe him, Daoist Xuancheng couldn't help but sigh. Daoist Xuancheng recognized Chu Xiu. Or rather, he had never forgotten Chu Xiu. Back then, in front of Eastern Qi's White Cloud Monastery, Daoist Xianxia had determined that the youth had a deep demonic nature. In the future, he would probably become a great demon that would bring disaster to the world. Whether or not Chu Xiu brought disaster to the world was hard to say. However, he had undoubtedly become a great demon with a great reputation in the world. Under the overwhelming demonic flames, other than the 3 pure palace hall and a few other sects, who would dare to disregard the demon master's might? Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, Daoist Xianxia, since I've called you here, I won't waste my breath with you. The reason I'm looking for you is because I want you to help me decipher a piece of tortoiseshell for divination. A piece of tortoiseshell from 10,000 years ago. After that, whatever you want, as long as my holy church is able to take it out, Daoist Xianxia can choose. Chapter 1423. Reverend Xianxia did not want to deal with Chu Xiu. To be more precise, he did not want to deal with anyone from the pugilistic world. Unfortunately, things never went as one wished in this world. It was not fate that he was found by Chu Xiu. It was karma. Perhaps it was karma that was formed when Chu Xiu listened to his sermon. Looking at Chu Xiu's expression, Reverend Xianxia knew that he could not refuse. Therefore, Reverend Xianxia could only say, Cult Master Chu, I can help you decipher the divination results. However, divination involves the mysteries of heaven, and the mysteries of heaven are constantly changing. Now that 10,000 years have passed, I do not have absolute confidence that I can decipher any mysteries of heaven. Another thing is that the new era has descended, but I do not want to interfere with the pugilistic world's conflicts. I am a Taoist priest, not a martial artist. I hope that Cult Master Chu can use the power of the Kunlun Devil cult to help me hide my tracks and not be disturbed by others. Reverend Xianxia's words were sincere. Chu Xiu could tell that too. If the other party had any requests or desires, Chu Xiu would use all sorts of methods to make this martial immortal divination master stay. However, since the other party had made up his mind, Chu Xiu did not want to make things difficult for him in such a place. After handing the tortoise shell to Reverend Xianxia, Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, I agree to your wish, Reverend. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, you can go to any of the holy cult's halls in the pugilistic world. The holy cult will help you. Thank you, Cult Master Chu. Reverend Xianxia took the tortoise shell and looked at the divination results as well as the lines of runes. He immediately frowned. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, Reverend Xianxia took out an 8 trigrams plate. He formed hand seals and calculated continuously. At the same time, the 8 trigrams plate was spinning continuously. The professional feeling he gave off was indeed much better than a fake like Master Yuan Ji. After a long while, the 8 trigram in Daoist Xianxia's hand spun faster and faster, and a strange Daoist connotation floated around him. In his hazy state, Sage Xianxia seemed to see countless images surging into his mind. Instantly, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Xiu took out a bottle of pills and placed it in front of Reverend Xianxia, asking, Reverend, did something happen to you? If you can't deduce anything, then don't force yourself. Perfected Xianxia shook his head and said, Cult Master Chu, I saw something about you. Chu Xiu's expression suddenly changed. Sure enough, the result of the divination was really on him. What did Taoist Xianxia see? Master Yuan Ji looked at Chu Xiu, wanting to say something but hesitating. He felt that he shouldn't listen to these things. The more he knew, the more dangerous it would be. If he heard something he shouldn't, would the cult master kill him to silence him? Although Master Yuan Ji knew that Chu Xiu most likely wouldn't do that, he still panicked. Glancing at Master Yuan Ji, who was fidgeting, Chu Xiu said calmly, just listen, it's fine. In the past, Master Yuan Ji had divined about Chu Xiu. Although he ended up suffering a terrible backlash, he had managed to pry into some of Chu Xiu's true secrets. Therefore, it didn't matter if he heard it now. Furthermore, with Chu Xiu's current strength and status, it wouldn't be a big deal even if outsiders found out that he was Dugu Weiwei's Earth Soul. In any case, he would release the Heavenly Soul and cause a chaotic battle. He didn't reveal his identity because there was no need. After all, Chu Xiu's greatest enemy had never been the Daoist people, but the life souls hidden in Netherworld Heaven. Daoist Master Xianxia heaved a long sigh of relief, and then he said, "Lord Chu, the divination results on this tortoise shell actually have nothing to do with you. It's entirely the work of that existence from 10,000 years ago." He wanted to deduce the path of survival after the Great Calamity, so he exhausted all his energy and vitality to deduce a path of survival. However, the results seemed to be different from what he had deduced. He had deduced a way out, but it wasn't a way out for his generation, but a way out for the calamity 10,000 years later. 10,000 years later will be the present, and the key point is you, Cult Master Chu. Cult Master Chu, you're the tribulation taker. Master Yuanji looked at Chu Xiu in shock. He was also proficient in divination, so he naturally knew what the so-called tribulation taker meant. It could be said that Chu Xiu himself was the key person who would decide the fate of this era, millions of lives, and the fate of the calamity. Cult Master Chu was indeed Cult Master Chu. Even if his current strength was not as strong as the Taoist Master, the Brahmin sect's Master, and the other powerhouses of the Ninth Heaven, his importance was higher than the two. It could even be said that if Chu Xiu died now, it would affect the karmic changes of this era. Chu Xiu didn't panic at all. It should be said that he had already expected this. He didn't see where the calamity was, but Netherworld Heaven, where the life souls were, was a key. The three souls of heaven, earth, and man, or rather, the world after 10,000 years was not in the hands of the Taoist Master and the others, but in the hands of the three souls. What else did you see, Master Xianxia? Master Xianxia said in a deep voice, I saw 3 Cult Master Chus. And the result? The 3 Cult Master Chus figures stood between heaven and earth, yin and yang. It seemed to be the end of everything, but also the beginning. But that wasn't the end. There was only one tribulation taker, but now there are 3. Chu Xiu frowned slightly. Then did the divination show which tribulation taker will be in the end? Master Xianxia smiled bitterly. No, so it's an incomplete divination. The divination master from 10,000 years ago predicted the scene of the tribulation taker. I wanted to predict the result further, but you saw it, Cult Master Chu, and it backfired. I can't see through these 3 figures. All 3 of them seem real, but all seem fake at the same time. The final result is changing at any time. No one knows if it's real or fake until the last step. Master Xianxia's words could be interpreted as nonsense, but Chu Xiu didn't think so. He was also a cultured person. In his previous life, there was a person named Schrödinger, so he must have had a lot in common with him. However, this information was enough for Chu Xiu. At least he could prove one thing: Tianhun didn't tell him the truth, or the truth that Tianhun knew wasn't the real truth. If the life spirit represented Dugu Weiwei, then only one of the 3 figures was real. Only the life spirit represented the tribulation taker, the real Dugu Weiwei. If Master Xianxia's divination was correct, then all 3 figures could be real, or fake. Didn't that mean that any of the 3 souls could become Dugu Weiwei, and not just the life spirit? Chu Xiu kept that guess in his heart. He cupped his hands at Master Xianxia and said, "Thank you for dispelling my doubts." After saying that, Chu Xiu ordered Grandmaster Yuanji to send Master Xianxia off. He had a contemplative expression on his face. It was rare that he didn't immediately enter seclusion. Instead, he pondered. In the Celestial Master's mansion on Mount Longhu, the old Celestial Master was happily examining the secret Daoist techniques he obtained from the Celestial Palace of the Myriad Daos. The thunder of the Celestial Master's mansion was very powerful. 10,000 years ago, the Celestial Master's mansion was also a large sect that produced a martial immortal. Even now, the thunder of the Celestial Master's mansion was not outdated and could still be cultivated. However, no one would complain about having too many cultivation techniques. Furthermore, cultivation techniques didn't mean they were good or strong. As people improved, so did cultivation techniques. The ambitious large sects in the past would not cultivate the cultivation techniques passed down by their ancestors. Instead, they would constantly fill in their own understanding during the process of cultivation. They would constantly fix the flaws of the previous generation until they were complete. Therefore, the cultivation techniques of the other large Daoist sects could be used to improve the Celestial Master's mansion. They could help them perfect the Celestial Master's cultivation techniques. At that moment, there was a sudden noise from below the Celestial Master's mansion. It seemed to be mixed with the fluctuation of earth energy. The old Celestial Master frowned slightly. A disciple ran up from the foot of the mountain and shouted with grief and indignation, "Old Celestial Master, this is bad. The mysterious heaven realm has come and destroyed all the formations of the Celestial Master's mansion." The old Celestial Master was stunned when he heard that. He couldn't believe that the mysterious heaven realm would come looking for trouble with him. They were all from the Daoist lineage. Compared to other sects, the Daoist lineage still cared about their reputation. Most importantly, when the Dao Master had descended to the lower realm, the three pristine temple had promised them that the Daoitian Daoist sects would not come looking for trouble in the lower realm. The Daoist sects of the two realms were of the same lineage. They should naturally be close to each other after descending to the lower realm. Although the old Celestial Master wasn't naive enough to believe the three pristine temples' words, he had been in charge of the Celestial Master's mansion for so many years. Large sects of this level would care about their reputation. Even if it was for the sake of their reputation, as long as the existence of the Celestial Master's mansion did not threaten the other party should not have made a move. Now, the mysterious heaven realm had come knocking on their door. Bai Yuchen led a group of mysterious heaven realm disciples into the Celestial Master's mansion leisurely. He looked around and said, "TSK, the scenery is pretty good. Celestial Master Zhang, why don't we make a deal and swap sects?" All the disciples of the Celestial Master's mansion looked furious. The sect's land was passed down by their ancestors. Even if an outsider were to behave atrociously here, they would fight to the death to kill him. Now, Bai Yuchen actually said in front of them that he wanted their sections. This was simply deliberate humiliation. Although the old Celestial Master was also furious, his expression did not change. He said coldly, "What is Sect Master Bai trying to do by coming to my Celestial Master's mansion? Is it just to show off your strength? Sect Master Bai, there's no need to show off. My Celestial Master's mansion is no match for the mysterious heaven realm, okay?" Bai Yuchen said indifferently, "You're admitting defeat so quickly? This isn't the style of your Celestial Master's mansion. Weren't you very arrogant in the Myriad Dao Heavenly Palace back then? A great Daoist sect actually allied with the demonic Dao. Now, I'll fulfill your wish. From today onwards, Celestial Master's mansion will be expelled from the Daoist lineage. Destroy the statue and seal the incense to serve as a warning to others." Chapter 1424. Bai Yuchen's words made the old Celestial Master, who had always been calm and self-restrained, completely lose control of his anger. Although the Celestial Master abode had not always been the leader of the lower realms Dao sects, it had always been one of the top 3 Dao sections. Since when did the mysterious heaven realm have the right to expel them from the Dao sects? Furthermore, they even wanted to destroy the Celestial Master abode's statue and forbid incense offerings. They were simply trying to destroy the Celestial Master abode's orthodoxy and force them to their deaths. Seeing that all the Celestial Master abode's cultivators looked like they were about to devour someone, Bai Yuchen said with a faint smile, "Sect Master Zhang, are you very angry now?" The old Celestial Master's expression darkened. "Shouldn't I be angry?" Bai Yuchen's expression suddenly changed, becoming extremely cold. Sect Master Zhang, when you teamed up with Chu Xiu to steal my Dao scripture and went against the mysterious heaven realm, how could you not consider whether I would be angry or not? Since the Celestial Master Abode doesn't regard yourself as a member of the Dao sects, why should I give you face? The old Celestial Master immediately understood what was going on. The other party was actually after Chu Xiu, and he had just suffered an undeserved calamity. Of course, it could not be said that the Celestial Master Abode was innocent. After all, they had also obtained a lot of cultivation techniques from the myriad Dao Heavenly Palace, so they naturally had to bear the karma. Sect Master Bai, have you forgotten what the three pristine palace said before coming to the lower realm? Bai Yuchen said indifferently, of course I haven't forgotten, but since the Celestial Master Abode has chosen to stand on the side of the Demon Dao and go against the Dao sects, you and I are no longer on the same side. If you're not convinced, you can go to the three pristine palace and complain about me. Anyway, I'm going to seal the incense offerings of the Celestial Master Abode today. It's very simple to solve the problem. Go find Chu Xiu and take back the Dao scripture of the myriad Dao Heavenly Palace. With that, Bai Yuchen waved his hand, and immediately, a mysterious heaven realm disciple stepped forward to destroy the Celestial Master Abode statue. Zhang Chengzhen's body released a thunderous halo. He was about to make a move, but the old Celestial Master stopped him. No one move. The old Celestial Master was very tolerant. In the face of such a humiliating act, he actually suppressed the entire Celestial Master manner and watched as the other party destroyed the statue and set up an array at the entrance of Mount Longhu, sealing off the mountain path and preventing pilgrims from climbing the mountain. After living for 500 years, the old Celestial Master still couldn't get over certain things. However, at the very least, he knew that only by living could one have a future. If one died, then there would be nothing left. He had already guessed Bai Yuchen's objective. He wanted to rely on him to force Chu Xiu to hand over the Daoist scriptures. Didn't you, Chu Xiu, claim to be on good terms with the Taoist Master's mansion and ally with them? Well, I can't deal with you, Chu Xiu, but I can deal with the Taoist Master's mansion, right? Under such pressure, the Celestial Master Mansion would definitely go to Chu Xiu for help. If Chu Xiu did not help, he would lose his reputation. If he helped, he would lose the myriad Tao Heavenly Palace's Dao cannons. Of course, Chu Xiu could also choose to use force, but the mysterious heaven realm was not weak. With the old Celestial Master's experience, he had already guessed the mysterious heaven realm's plan in an instant. He could not help but smile bitterly in his heart. Bai Yuchen's methods were very despicable. As an 8th-level martial immortal, he did not dare to directly snatch things from Chu Xiu's hands. Instead, he deliberately targeted the Celestial Master Mansion and used such methods. But so what if he knew? He was not as strong as him, so he could only endure. After the people from the mysterious heaven realm completely destroyed all the statues in the Celestial Master Mansion, Bai Yuchen looked at the old Celestial Master with a trace of surprise. Isn't this old fellow a little too tolerant? Things have already reached such an extent, yet he still hasn't made a move. Originally, Bai Yuchen had planned to kill a few people to establish his might, but now that no one jumped out, it seemed a little awkward for him to kill directly. Therefore, Bai Yuchen only sneered and waved his hand, swaggering away with the people from the mysterious heaven realm. After the people from the mysterious heaven realm left, the people from the Celestial Master Mansion began to curse. Some even cried. Old Celestial Master. They are such bullies. When has the Celestial Master Mansion ever suffered such grievances? So what if they're from a Daoist sect? Won't one stab leave 2 holes in them? At most, we'll fight them. After being the leader of the Dao sects for so many years, the disciples of the Celestial Master Mansion had always been magnanimous and reserved. Now that they were able to say such words, one could imagine just how furious they were. The old Celestial Master snorted. 2 holes in them with 1 stab? Wake up. Do you think the mysterious heaven realm will give us a chance to stab them? What should we do then? Just endure it? The old celestial master sighed. I'll go to the Three Pure Temple to uphold justice. If that doesn't work, we'll have to go to the cult master Chu. In fact, the old celestial master already had a vague idea. If the mysterious heaven realm dared to cause trouble so brazenly and disregarded the rules that had been set, they were most likely supported by the Three Pure Temple. It would be pointless for him to go there. However, the old celestial master still wanted to give it a try. He did not want to go to Chu Xiu unless it was absolutely necessary. Bai Yuchen did not understand Chu Xiu. He thought that Chu Xiu was too simple. He thought that Chu Xiu would only choose to compromise or not compromise, but in fact, Chu Xiu would only choose the third option. The old celestial master knew Chu Xiu very well. Chu Xiu would never hand over the Dao scripture of the myriad Dao divine palace. All these years, no one had been able to snatch anything from Chu Xiu. Therefore, once the old celestial master went to beg Chu Xiu, the consequences were almost set in stone. By luring the Kunlun devil cult into West Chu, the celestial master abode would be completely tied to the Kunlun devil cult's chariot. The West Chu martial world would also be filled with bloodshed. The old celestial master did not reject Chu Xiu, but he did not want the celestial master abode to be tainted by the karma of the West Chu martial world. The old celestial master had been waiting in front of the Three Pure Temple for 2 hours. Fang Yizhen's personality was more lively, unlike Su Guishan who could not even fart after a few blows. Therefore, he was the one who received people. Seeing the old celestial master standing there, Fang Yizhen could not help but persuade him. Old celestial master, go back. The patriarch and the others are all in seclusion. They won't see you. Fang Yizhen felt a little ashamed when he said that. He knew what was going on with the Three Pure Temple. The things that the mysterious heaven realm did were instructed by the Three Pure Temple, so how could they come to see the old celestial master? Fang Yizhen looked at the old man, who was more than 500 years old and was even older than the martial immortals in the Three Pure Temple, waiting here alone. His appearance made Fang Yizhen feel a little sad. He did not agree with the Three Pure Temple's way of doing things. If they wanted the Taoist scriptures in Chu Xiu's hands, they could have just taken them by force and fought with them. It was better to be domineering than to use underhanded tricks like this behind his back. Fang Yizhen felt that it was not the Three Pure Temple's style. The old celestial master smiled bitterly. Do you not want to see me or do you not want to see me? Is the promise made by the Three Pristine's palace in the past really not counted now? Fang Yizhen was silent. Although he was a martial immortal, he was still a junior disciple of the Three Pure Temple. He had no right to speak on such matters. The old celestial master already knew everything when he saw Fang Yizhen's expression. Sigh. With a sigh, the old celestial master cupped his hands at Fang Yizhen and said, in that case, please tell the spiritual masters of the Three Pure Temple that the celestial master mansion just wants justice. After saying that, the old celestial master left in a desolate manner. After leaving the Three Pure Temple, Zhang Chengzhen and the others were waiting outside. Seeing the old celestial master's appearance, they knew the outcome of this trip. Zhang Chengzhen said in a deep voice, Old celestial master, what should we do now? The old celestial master's previously desolate and stooped figure straightened up. He no longer had the submissive look on his face. Instead, there was a hint of killing intent. Since the Three Pure Temple can't give us justice, we will find it ourselves. Go to Kunlun and lead the devil cult into West Chu. So what if the Kunlun devil cult dominates the world? Even the Kunlun devil cult did not bully me like this in the past 500 years. No one had seen the old celestial master like this for a long time. Since the situation of the world was completely stabilized hundreds of years ago, the old celestial master also faintly had the title of the first person in the lower realm. He began to cultivate in seclusion in Longhu Mountain, drifting indifferently from the world. Except for Daoist Qing, who had been following the old Celestial Master, the disciples of the Celestial Master Mansion present had never seen the fierce appearance that he showed now. In the Nanman branch of the Kunlun Devil cult, Chu Xiu was still thinking about the result of Spiritual Master Xuancheng's divination. At this time, a disciple of the Kunlun Devil cult came to report that the old Celestial Master had come to visit, which made Chu Xiu suddenly stunned. He could think of anyone coming, but the old Celestial Master, who would hardly leave the back mountain of the Celestial Master Mansion if it was not necessary, actually took the initiative to come to the Nanman to find him? Go and invite him in. As soon as the old Celestial Master came in, he directly bowed to Chu Xiu and said in a deep voice, "Cult Master Chu, my Celestial Master Mansion is willing to pay any price to invite the Kunlun Devil cult to enter West Chu and uphold justice for my Celestial Master Mansion." Chu Xiu quickly helped the old Celestial Master up and asked in confusion, "Old Celestial Master, why are you doing this? The strongest in West Chu is the Dao lineage. Why are you still looking for me to uphold justice?" The old Celestial Master smiled bitterly and told Chu Xiu what had happened. Of course, the old Celestial Master was very shrewd. He would not say his speculation that the mysterious heaven realm was mainly targeting Chu Xiu. That would make it seem like he was kidnapping Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu was not stupid. As long as he said all these, Chu Xiu would naturally understand the key point. Sure enough, a cold look appeared in Chu Xiu's eyes after he heard that. He really didn't expect that a force at the level of the Three Pristines Temple would play such underhanded tricks. Regardless of whether the mysterious heaven realm was the one who initiated it or the Three Pristine Temple, it was obvious that the Three Pristine Temple knew about it and agreed to it. Therefore, what he would have to face next might not just be the mysterious heaven realm, but the Three Pristine Temple. Chu Xiu had no reason to reject this matter. Not only was the mysterious heaven realm coming for him, but it was also an opportunity to openly interfere with West Chu's destiny. Among the three kingdoms, the northern Yan kingdom was already following the lead of the Kunlun Devil cult, and the eastern Chi's Chu Xiu had also interfered with a portion of the destiny. Together with West Chu, more than half of the destiny of the entire lower realm was already in his hands. A smile appeared on Chu Xiu's face at the thought of this. "Don't worry, Celestial Master. The cultivators of the lower realm are not so easily bullied. The Holy Church will help you seek justice." Chapter 1425. The old Celestial Master had never been easy to deal with. It was impossible for a kind old man to lead the rise of the Celestial Master Mansion and become the leader of the Taoist sects after Dugu Weiwei and Ning Xuanji went to the Daoist 500 years ago, when there was no order in the pugilistic world. In fact, the era after the disappearance of Dugu Weiwei and Ning Xuanji was more chaotic than the era when the Kunlun Devil cult dominated the world. When the Kunlun Devil cult dominated the pugilistic world, it was only chaotic in the early stages. However, not everyone in the Kunlun Devil cult was a homicidal maniac. As long as you followed the rules of the Kunlun Devil cult, you would be fine. Therefore, the pugilistic world was chaotic at that time, with the Kunlun Devil cult controlling everything. After the disappearance of Dugu Weiwei and Ning Xuanji, the pugilistic world attacked the Devil cult. That was when the world was in chaos. At that time, the previous Celestial Master had died, and it was the time when the old Celestial Master took over the power of the Celestial Master Mansion. At that time, the martial artists did not feel that the old Celestial Master was kind. Therefore, when he heard Chu Xiu agree, the old Celestial Master immediately said in a deep voice, "Cult Master Chu, what are you going to do? The Celestial Master Mansion will cooperate fully." Chu Xiu thought about it and said, "It's easy to deal with the mysterious heaven realm, but we have to consider the three pure temple behind them. Therefore, we have to do our best to make the matter bigger. The bigger the better." The old Celestial Master said coldly, "Is it like what you did in Eastern Qi? That's easy. This old man still has some power in West Chu. I don't need to go to every force like you did in Eastern Qi, Cult Master Chu. I can guarantee that as long as the Celestial Master Mansion opens its mouth, 80% of the forces in West Chu's pugilistic world will rise up. As for the other 20%, the moon-worshipping cult probably doesn't like the Daoist martial artists either. Cult Master Chu, if you come with me to the moon-worshipping cult, you will have a 90% chance of convincing Yi Shaonan. My Celestial Master Mansion and the moon-worshipping cult are both West Chu's national religions. If our two sects make a move, the West Chu imperial court will follow. When the time comes, we will besiege the mysterious heaven realm and change the color of West Chu. Chu Xiu was stunned by the old heavenly master's words. He had never seen the old celestial master being so radical. He had never seen the old celestial master so with such radical actions. A series of plans were arranged. He was even more nimble than when he was in Eastern Qi. After all, Chu Xiu was not a warrior of Eastern Qi. He only had strength, not prestige. If the old celestial master acted according to his plan, he would be able to change the color of West Chu's face in an instant. Chu Xiu coughed and said, "I'm not talking about this. I'll just use the same plan once. This time, I'm not only targeting the mysterious heaven realm, but I'm also targeting the three pure temples so that they won't dare to look down on the martial arts world of the lower realm. I didn't want to make a move against the Sanskrit cult, but this time, if we don't see some blood, it will be a waste of our plan. Old Celestial Master, West Chu is too small. Even if we do as you said and bring everyone here, it will be useless. Those sects and the West Chu Imperial Court are too weak. Why don't we look at the long term?" The old Celestial Master's expression changed. "For example?" Chu Xiu narrowed his eyes and said, "For example, Northern Yen and Eastern Qi. With my order, the Northern Yen martial artists will gather, and the Kunlun Devil cult will also gather in West Chu. I can influence the Eastern Qi martial artists, but you, old Celestial Master, are more influential. If you show up, the real martial arts cult and the Chunyang Dao sect will not give you face. And I heard that you seem to be friends with the Ying family's old ancestor. These people will gather in West Chu. If they do, they will let the Daoist know the power of the martial artists in the mortal world. When we just came to the mortal world, they said that we are of the same origin, but what about their hearts? They still don't take us seriously. Contempt and prejudice are always in their hearts and eyes. Respect and respect are not earned with words, but with fists." The old Celestial Master looked at Chu Xiu in shock. Just now, he was talking about the same as what Chu Xiu did in Eastern Qi. He was talking about power, betting that the other party would retreat for the sake of reputation. But the kind of trouble Chu Xiu talked about was actually huge. Although he did not say it explicitly, Chu Xiu's actions showed that he wanted to destroy the mysterious heaven realm. However, Chu Xiu's words made the old Celestial Master, who had long been calm and collected, feel his blood boiling. Respect and respect were never earned with words, but with fists and knives. Just like when the Daoist came to the mortal world, he was ignored in the Three Pristines Temple for more than 2 hours. And now, the mysterious heaven realm did not take the Celestial Master abode seriously. However, the old Celestial Master was experienced and prudent, so he still had some rationality. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, the old Celestial Master said in a deep voice, "You can deal with the mysterious heaven realm, and you can suppress Bai Yuchen in the myriad Dao Divine Palace. But what if the Three Pristines Temple intervenes? To tell you the truth, Cult Master Chu, I went to the Three Pristines Temple before I came here, but I was rejected. Without the Three Pristines Temple's permission, the mysterious heaven realm wouldn't dare to go too far." Chu Xiu sneered and said, "If they want to intervene, then so be it. But do you think the Three Pristines Temple will intervene, or to what extent would they dare to intervene? We're not targeting the Three Pristines Temple, but the mysterious heaven realm. If the Three Pristines Temple intervenes, they can only mediate. Would they dare to join the battle and become enemies with the entire mortal world? Don't forget that the Dao Master isn't here. Without the Dao Master's instructions, they wouldn't dare to do so. Whether it's Zheng Tai or Hua Gongbi, they wouldn't dare. The last time he went to the Three Pristines Temple to trade, he realized that the Dao Master's prestige in the Three Pristines Temple was beyond imagination. Zheng Tai and Hua Gongbi were powerhouses at the 8th level of the heaven, and they could control a top sect in the outside world. However, Chu Xiu found that they didn't have the slightest opinion. To be precise, once it involved the Dao Master's orders, or involved the domain controlled by the Dao Master, they would become like this. Chu Xiu couldn't understand whether they respected the Dao Master or feared him. Anyway, the Dao Master wasn't here. Chu Xiu was 90% sure that the two temporary leaders of the Three Pristines Temple, Zheng Tai and Hua Gongbi, would definitely not dare to drag the Three Pristines Temple into the battle between the mortal world and the Daoyu Ocean. Seeing that Chu Xiu was confident, the old celestial master didn't hesitate anymore. He said in a deep voice, "I'll go to Eastern Qi to gather people during this period of time. When will we attack the mysterious heaven realm?" Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "There's no hurry. We now represent the entire mortal world, so we naturally can't just attack directly. We have to find an excuse. This is called having a good reason. How is the reputation of the mysterious heaven realm in West Chu? I'm not talking about the Three Pristines Temple, but the other sects." The old celestial master hesitated. To be honest, the mysterious heaven realm is very well behaved most of the time, and they don't go too far. After all, there are rules set by the Three Pristines Temple. Although the mysterious heaven realm doesn't care as much about its reputation as the Three Pristines Temple, it won't go too far. Chu Xiu touched his chin and said, "They are well behaved most of the time, but does that mean they don't follow the rules in a small part of the time? It's hard to find someone doing good, but isn't it easy to find someone doing bad? Old Celestial Master, feel free to contact the martial arts world of Eastern Qi. I'll send someone to deal with West Chu." The old Celestial Master nodded and said, "All right, but the Kunlun Devil cult is now a big tree that attracts the wind. If your subordinates enter West Chu, I'm afraid they will be recognized." Chu Xiu laughed when he heard that. "Old Celestial Master, don't worry. The sacred sect is full of talents. We may lack other things, but we don't lack people." As he said that, Chu Xiu waved his hand and transmitted a few words to his subordinate. Not long after, a handsome young martial artist wearing the black warrior suit of the Kunlun Devil cult with a long sword at his waist strode into the hall. The current Kunlun Devil cult was indeed a big tree that attracted the wind. Not including Chu Xiu, Lu Fengxian, Lu Jianghu, and the others were actually not unknown people after several battles, even in the Daoyu Ocean and the lower realm. Even the elite hall masters of the Kunlun Devil cult like Tangya and Yen Bugui were the same. They had distinctive characteristics and would definitely be recognized. However, the young man in front of him had the cultivation of the early stage of heaven and earth elemental enlightenment. He was very young, and his face was a little unfamiliar. At least, the old celestial master did not recognize him, so he should not be a senior member of the Kunlun Devil cult. When did the Kunlun Devil cult produce such a young talent? Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "This is a disciple of the sacred sect, Yi Shao. He has received part of my inheritance. He is meticulous and skilled in doing things. I'll leave this matter to him." As he said that, Chu Xiu said to Yi Shao, "Bring some of the disciples who have never left the sect to West Chu and find a way to blackmail the mysterious heaven realm. At the very least, you have to give us an excuse to attack the mysterious heaven realm. Remember, the time for this mission is a little tight. It must be completed before the old celestial master returns." The old celestial master could not stand it anymore. He quickly said, "Cult Master Chu, you're making things difficult for us. If the mysterious heaven realm really behaves well during this period and you don't have anything to blackmail us, what can you do? This kind of thing depends on luck. If I go to Eastern Qi, we can buy some time. Before Chu Xiu could say anything, Yi Shao shook his head and said, "Thank you for your understanding, Celestial Master, but the people of the sacred sect are not so rigid. If there is a blackmail, we will find a chance to blackmail them. If there is no blackmail, we will create one ourselves. So, Celestial Master, don't worry about us. If I can't even do such a small thing, how can I go back to the sacred sect and see the cult master?" The old Celestial Master looked at Yi Shao, speechless. Where did Chu Xiu find such a young and talented disciple? Most importantly, this group of people had been trained by Chu Xiu. There was clearly something wrong with their way of thinking. They might not have learned anything else, but they were very familiar with Chu Xiu's unconventional way of doing things. It was fine if there was only one or two people like that, but if the entire Kunlun devil cult was made up of people like that, even the old Celestial Master would be afraid, even though they were allies. Chapter 1426. In a large hall in the West Chu Xiantian territory, a young Taoist priest wearing a black and gold robe and a black jade crown was reading the information sent by the disciples of the mysterious heaven territory. He was handsome and masculine with a touch of sharpness. His cultivation had even reached the third heaven of martial immortal. He was Bai Yuchen's personal disciple, Feng Yu. He was also the designated successor of the mysterious heaven territory. Bai Yuchen wanted to borrow the Taixien Dao realm from the Three Pristines Temple to help Feng Yu, a third heaven martial immortal, reach the fourth heaven. In fact, Feng Yu was quite a proud person. He was also from a Taoist sect. He did not think he was inferior to Su Guishan and Fang Yizhen from the Three Pristines Temple. Even without the Taixien Dao realm, he could reach the fourth heaven sooner or later with his own foundation. Why bother asking the Three Pristines Temple? Although the entire mysterious heaven territory basically followed the Three Pristines Temple's lead, in fact, not many warriors in the mysterious heaven territory were willing to truly submit to the Three Pristines Temple. After looking through the information, Feng Yu could not help but shake his head and say, "This lower realm is a bit too barren." Most of the so-called major sects' inheritances were not worth mentioning 10,000 years ago. The Celestial Master mansion that Master personally took care of was not famous among the Taoist sects 10,000 years ago. It was only famous for the Thunder sect. I didn't expect it to become the leader of the Taoist sects in the lower realm. What a joke. A disciple beside him said, "Actually, this is also because the West Chu land is too remote. However, Master, I found out a few days ago through a wind organization in the lower realm. The Four Symbols sect actually still has inheritances in the lower realm." Feng Yu raised his eyebrows. "Oh? Four Symbols sect? They were quite famous in the ancient times, but why haven't I heard of them in the lower realm?" The disciple said, "Because the real Four Symbols sect was actually destroyed in the ancient times. Now, there is no real Four Symbols sect in the pugilistic world. What is left are only four sects that obtained the inheritance of the Four Symbols sect. Their names have also changed. Among them, the Blue Dragon Society has become a lowly assassin and has been absorbed by Chu Xiu's Kunlun devil cult. The White Tiger Hall had submitted to the imperial court and was no longer a force to be reckoned with. The Black Tortoise School did not inherit the true formation path of the Four Symbols divine sect. Instead, they were more proficient in the refinement of machinery and other messy things. Only the Vermilion Bird Pavilion had inherited the pill recipes and secret arts of the Vermilion Bird lineage of the Four Elements divine sect, as well as the secret art of rebirth through fire refinement. It's a pity that even the Vermilion Bird Pavilion doesn't know how to use it, wasting the inheritance of the Vermilion Bird lineage of the Four Symbols divine sect. Feng Yu's eyes immediately lit up. Our mysterious heaven realm doesn't lack pill recipes or secret techniques, but I've heard of this flame refinement rebirth secret technique. By refining the heart flame into one's body and infusing it with vitality, no matter how severe one's injuries were, one would be able to release vitality when bathed in the heart flame and recover instantly. This secret technique could even be used on the primordial spirit, which was quite rare. Bring your men to the Vermilion Bird Pavilion and trade with them for the secret method of rebirth through fire refinement. The disciple was taken aback. But that's the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's inherited secret technique. Will the Vermilion Bird Pavilion agree to it if we just go there to trade? How strong is the Vermilion Bird Pavilion in the lower realm? Feng Yu asked. The disciple replied, they're a little weak, so they can't be ranked. How about compared to the Celestial Master Mansion? There's no way. Feng Yu flicked his sleeves and snorted coldly. That's it. We can even touch the Celestial Master Mansion in the mysterious Heaven Realm, let alone the Vermilion Bird Pavilion. Previously, due to the suppression of the Three Purities Temple, the mysterious Heaven Realm didn't do anything too excessive after descending to the lower realm. But now that Bai Yuchen had brought his men to touch the Celestial Master Mansion, the Three Purities Temple didn't respond at all. This also made the other mysterious Heaven Realm cultivators think. The entire Daoist mysterious Heaven Realm, the second strongest Dao sect, was extremely afraid of the Three Purities Temple. They didn't dare to disobey the Three Purities Temple's orders. Since the Three Purities Temple didn't care about this matter, what else did they have to fear? Let's go, bring our men to the Vermilion Bird Pavilion. In the dense forest outside the mysterious Heaven Realm, Yi Shao stood in the distance and watched Feng Yu lead the mysterious Heaven Realm disciples in the direction of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion. A cold smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Qi Yuanli of the wind-sweeping tower stood beside Yi Shao. For some reason, he suddenly felt that Yi Shao's smile was very similar to that of Cult Master Chu from back then. Qi Yuanli hadn't seen Chu Xiu for a long time. With Chu Xiu's current strength and status, he, the Vice Tower Master of the world's #1 wind medium force, was just a small wind medium in front of Chu Xiu. There was no chance for him to see Chu Xiu again. That was why he felt that Yi Shao resembled Chu Xiu. He didn't know if he resembled the current Chu Xiu, but at least he resembled the Chu Xiu from back then. Others might not know Yi Shao's identity, but Qi Yuanli did. This young man didn't seem to be famous in the underworld, but he was the only person in the underworld who had obtained a portion of Cult Master Chu's inheritance. It was enough to say that he was half a disciple of Cult Master Chu. Just this identity alone was already very shocking. Yi Shao turned his head and smiled at Qi Yuanli. Tower Master Qi, I've troubled you this time. The sacred church will remember this favor. Qi Yuanli smiled bitterly. Vice Tower Master, I'm just a Vice Tower Master. Young Master Yi, you're too polite. However, if the mysterious Heaven Realm finds out what I've done, our wind-sweeping tower will be in trouble. Our wind-sweeping tower is just a group of wind mediums. With the strength of the mysterious Heaven Realm, they can probably crush us with one finger. Yi Shao said indifferently, what are you afraid of, Tower Master Qi? The information you gave to the mysterious Heaven Realm is real. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion's inheritance isn't real? The Vermilion Bird Pavilion's current situation isn't real? Since it's all real, why are you afraid of the mysterious Heaven Realm finding trouble with you? Moreover, it's unknown whether there will be a mysterious Heaven Realm in the underworld after some time. Qi Yuanli's expression became extremely shocked when he saw Yi Shao's unfathomable smile. It was obvious that he had thought of something. Yi Shao looked at Qi Yuanli with a smile that didn't seem like a smile and said indifferently, Tower Master Qi and the Cult Master are old friends, so I believe in Tower Master Qi and the wind-sweeping tower's reputation. Moreover, Tower Master Qi, don't forget that we're both sects from the lower realm. Whether it's the mysterious Heaven Realm or the Three Pure Palace, they're both Daoist sections. We're not on the same side. So, Tower Master Qi, I believe you know which side the wind-sweeping tower will stand on. I won't say any more. Qi Yuanli quickly nodded. Yes, yes, yes. Of course I know. Yi Shao waved his hand and said in a deep voice, since that's the case, I still have things to do, so I won't say any more. If Tower Master Qi wants first-hand information, then don't return to Eastern Qi for now. Just take some people and observe the surroundings of the mysterious heaven realm. There will be a surprise after some time. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Xiao and the elite disciples of the Kunlun devil cult behind him turned into a black light and disappeared, trailing far behind the mysterious heaven realm martial artists. Qi Yuanli couldn't help but sigh as he looked at Yi Xiao's back. Talented people appear in every generation. Qi Yuanli had personally witnessed the era when Chu Xiu's name shook the underworld. Now, the younger generations of the Kunlun devil cult were already so outstanding, and Chu Xiu was already a demon master who could dominate the entire underworld. This made Qi Yuanli feel a little emotional. Was it time for him to retire? The underworld was too dangerous. He wanted to retire. As one of the four spirits, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion did not have a big reputation in the underworld. The members of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion were all women, and they were very good at refining pills and healing techniques. Thus, they opened up a large medicinal field in the depths of the 100,000 mountain range, refining pills and cultivating in peace. Thus, over the years, no matter what happened in the underworld, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion could not be affected. In addition, the martial artists of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion never left the mountain to roam the underworld, so it was quite peaceful. Now that the Daoist martial artists had descended to the lower world, the underworld was in chaos, but this did not affect the Vermilion Bird Pavilion at all. The only impact was that because the Daoist and the lower world were connected, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's medicinal field had a great harvest, and many spirit herbs that had gone extinct before were growing in the depths of the 100,000 mountain range. This was good news for the Vermilion Bird Pavilion. At this moment, inside the Vermilion Bird Pavilion, a beautiful woman wearing a fiery red tassel dress with a curvy figure was in the medicinal field, instructing the disciples of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion to pick various herbs. She was the current Vermilion Bird Pavilion's pavilion master, Su Qiutong. She was not very strong, only at the heaven and earth elemental enlightenment realm. Furthermore, this was because of the essence Qi wave, which increased her strength. Otherwise, she would only be at the early stage of the true fire spirit refinement realm. A disciple hurriedly ran over to report, Pavilion Master, people from the mysterious heaven realm are here, and they want to see you." Su Qiutong's eyes revealed a hint of doubt. Why is the mysterious heaven realm looking for me? Could it be that they also want to buy pills from the Vermilion Bird Pavilion? Although the Vermilion Bird Pavilion traded pills with many martial arts forces in the lower world, in her opinion, the mysterious heaven realm was a top Daoist force, and they should not be interested in the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's pills. Su Qiutong entered the main hall with doubt, and with a bright smile on her face, she said, "Esteemed masters from the mysterious heaven realm are here, I hope you don't take offense." The moment he saw Su Qiutong, Feng Yu's eyes immediately revealed a hint of surprise. It was not that he had not seen women before, but he had never seen a woman with such a stunning temperament like Su Qiutong. Dao sects did not accept women, and in other sects, there were very few women who could reach the peak. Moreover, although most women were beautiful, their beauty was purely based on their physical appearance. Su Qiutong's beauty lay in her mature and elegant temperament. Although her strength was nothing in the Daoist world, in the lower world, she was the pavilion master of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion for many years, and her temperament was far from what ordinary women could compare to. Chapter 1427. Although Su Qiutong was stunning, Feng Yu was the successor of the mysterious heaven realm. He naturally wasn't here for a woman. Feng Yu smiled. "I'm here today to make a deal with the Vermilion Bird Pavilion." Su Qiutong thought that Feng Yu was really here for the elixir. She thought that she had just received a big deal. She immediately revealed a bright smile. "What kind of elixir do you want?" "The Vermilion Bird Pavilion has everything." Feng Yu shook his head. "No, I'm not here for the elixir. Then why are you here? Feng Yu said in a deep voice, to trade for the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's fiery rebirth technique. Su Qiudong's expression changed. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion wasn't good at martial arts that involved killing. This was because when their ancestors obtained the ruins of the Four Symbols Divine Sect, the part of the martial path related to fighting and killing was missing. However, the fiery rebirth technique was one of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's most important secret techniques. It represented the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's true foundation. How could they trade it? So, Su Qiudong refused without even thinking about it. Please forgive me. The fiery rebirth technique is the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's secret technique. We won't trade it, nor will we teach it to outsiders. Feng Yu shook his head. Pavilion Master Su, it's not that my words are harsh, but the fiery rebirth technique is useless to the Vermilion Bird Pavilion. I understand your Vermilion Bird Pavilion. You don't usually participate in the fighting and you don't even have the chance to be injured. What use do you have for this secret technique? On the contrary, the mysterious heaven realm has many powerful techniques that can help you reach the martial immortal realm. You can choose any of them. Su Qiudong shook her head. I'm sorry. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion only cultivates our own techniques. We don't care if it's good or not. We don't need it. Feng Yu suddenly revealed a smile at Su Qiudong's unyielding attitude. Pavilion Master Su, you said the secret technique isn't taught to outsiders? Then if I want to marry you and become your cultivation companion, wouldn't I be considered an outsider? Su Qiudong was taken aback. What did you say? Are you joking? Feng Yu said indifferently, Pavilion Master Su, do you think I'm joking? I'm serious. This humble Daoist's master is the mysterious Heaven Realm sect master, Bai Yuchen, and I am the next successor of the mysterious Heaven Realm. I believe that this identity won't disgrace you, Pavilion Master Su. Dao companions were not husband and wife, but they were more like husband and wife. Husband and wife are birds of the same forest, but when disaster strikes, they fly separately. Dao companions are people who support each other on the path of cultivation. In the future, when I ascend to the ninth heavens of the martial immortal realm, I can also bring you to the peak. Su Qiudong was able to become the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's pavilion master. Although she was a woman, she was also a powerful woman. She had never thought about relying on a man. Therefore, Feng Yu's current appearance did not make her feel that he was very lofty. Instead, she felt that he was extremely conceited and arrogant. Not to mention the possibility of him becoming the strongest person in the nine heavens in the future, just the fact that he used the name of his own sect to pressure others made Su Qiudong somewhat look down on him. However, Su Qiudong didn't dare to offend Feng Yu. She could only say tactfully, it's me who doesn't deserve you. I've never had any extravagant hopes of becoming a martial immortal. The smile on Feng Yu's face gradually disappeared. He stretched out a hand and said lightly, 5 days. Su Qiudong was stunned. What 5 days? Feng Yu said indifferently, I'll only give you 5 days to consider, Pavilion Master Su. I won't say threatening words. It's beneath my dignity. I'll give you 5 days to investigate the mysterious Heaven Realm and see the strength of the mysterious Heaven Realm. At the same time, I'll give you the chance to find out what happened to the Celestial Master Mansion and let you see the style of the mysterious Heaven Realm. I'll give you the choice. Either you trade the secret technique of rebirth through fire refinement, or you and I become Dao companions. I'll take your secret technique and help you become a martial immortal. There's no third choice. After saying that, Feng Yu flung his sleeves and stepped into the air. He completely ignored the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's formation and left. As the successor of the mysterious Heaven Realm and the most outstanding young martial artist of the Dao sect, Feng Yu didn't want to ruin his demeanor over such a small matter. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion can investigate the strength and status of the mysterious Heaven Realm yourself. You only have the right to choose. You don't have the right to refuse. Su Qiudong clenched her teeth in anger. For so many years, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion had stood aloof from worldly affairs, and they were all women. Hence, the people of the pugilistic world would give them some face. Even the top sects wouldn't bully them like this. Especially when Feng Yu wanted to force her to be his Dao companion. That made her feel even more humiliated. However, Su Qiudong didn't need to investigate to know the strength of the mysterious heaven realm. They didn't have the right to refuse. At that moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Pavilion Master Su, are you furious? You can consider cooperating with me. Who is it? Come out. Su Qiudong yelled. She suddenly realized that the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's formation was like a sieve. Anyone could enter and leave at will. Yi Xiao walked out of the hall. Even with Su Qiudong's current strength, she didn't notice when Yi Xiao walked into the hall. Who are you? Yi Xiao smiled and cupped his hands. Kunlun Sacred Sects Yi Xiao greets Pavilion Master Su. Su Qiudong was shocked when she heard Yi Xiao's identity. Who in the pugilistic world didn't know the reputation of the Kunlun devil cult? Who didn't know the demon lord Chu Xiu? He was the only powerful existence in the pugilistic world who could wrestle with the Daoist forces and make them lose face. Mr. Yi, why are you here? Do you want the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's secret techniques? Su Qiudong smiled bitterly. Yi Xiao shook his head. The Kunlun devil cult has countless secret techniques. We don't lack one or two. I saw what happened just now. The mysterious heaven realm is so overbearing that it has caused the West Chu pugilistic world to complain. Now, the sacred sect is ready to seek justice for the entire West Chu pugilistic world, but we lack a good excuse. The Celestial Master Mansion has some conflicts with the mysterious heaven realm, and because we are too powerful, we can't use it as an excuse. Pavilion Master Su's Vermilion Bird Pavilion is very suitable. So, I'm here to ask if Pavilion Master Su is willing to join forces with the sacred sect to fight against the mysterious heaven realm? Su Qiudong's eyes widened. She knew what this meant. It meant that Chu Xiu was ready to join forces with the entire West Chu pugilistic world to fight against the mysterious heaven realm. Once she spoke, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion would become the fuse of this matter and become the focus of attention. It could be said that if she agreed, it would be equivalent to standing on the side of the Kunlun devil cult and becoming enemies with the mysterious heaven realm. If the Kunlun devil cult lost, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's fate could be imagined. Su Qiudong couldn't help but ask, "Can I refuse?" Yi Xiao stood with his hands behind his back and laughed. "Of course you can. It's just an excuse. If the Vermilion Bird Pavilion can't do it, I'll find another one. I, Yi Xiao, can't threaten a woman. If I do, the sect lord won't forgive me. To put it bluntly, if you can't find an excuse, then don't use it. Just attack the mysterious heaven realm." If Feng Yu was arrogant, then Yi Xiao was confident. He was confident because of the existence of the Kunlun devil cult. Su Qiudong thought about the humiliation she suffered and the fact that she didn't even have a choice. When she saw Yi Xiao's attitude, Su Qiudong only thought for a moment before nodding. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion is willing to stand on the side of the Kunlun devil cult and attack the mysterious heaven realm. Yi Xiao smiled. "Thank you, Pavilion Master Su. I'll stay in the Vermilion Bird Pavilion as a liaison. Once the plan starts, I'll immediately attack." 5 days later, Feng Yu, who was in the mysterious heaven realm, waved his hand and called a disciple over. "Is there still no news from the Vermilion Bird Pavilion?" The disciple shook his head. "No. Not a single disciple from the Vermilion Bird Pavilion has come." Feng Yu rubbed his chin. The women from the Vermilion Bird Pavilion were really stubborn. Or did they not know what kind of existence the mysterious heaven realm was? At that moment, another disciple came and said that Bai Yuchen had called him over. When Feng Yu arrived at the main hall, he saw that Bai Yuchen's face had darkened. The other mysterious heaven realm martial immortals also had ugly expressions. "Master, what's wrong? What's wrong? Look at what you've done." Bai Yuchen threw a piece of paper at Feng Yu. Feng Yu took a look and saw that it was actually a document that stated how overbearing and unreasonable he had been in the mysterious heaven realm. He had forcefully bought the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's cultivation technique and forcefully married Su Qiudong. He had even added a lot of details to the document, making him seem like a high-ranking official. That's pure slander. Feng Yu threw the document on the ground angrily. Bai Yuchen said coldly, "So your visit to the Vermilion Bird Pavilion is also slander?" Feng Yu said solemnly, "I did make a trip to the Vermilion Bird Pavilion, but that's what you said, Master. There are many secret techniques left behind in the lower realm from 10,000 years ago. The martial world in the lower realm doesn't know what's good for them, so we should try our best to collect them. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion's fire refinement rebirth technique is one such technique. Did I ask you to forcefully marry the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's pavilion master?" Feng Yu explained, "Not as a wife, but as a cultivation companion. I really want to become her cultivation companion. Moreover, if I can become Su Qiudong's cultivation companion, the mysterious heaven realm will have a closer relationship with the sects in the lower realm. It will be easier for us to take in other sections." "Nonsense!" Bai Yuchen shouted angrily, "Look at what's written on the back of the document." Feng Yu flipped it over and saw the back of the document. The mysterious heaven realm relied on the Daoist forces to go against the law and act overbearingly. They forcefully stole the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's cultivation technique and forced the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's pavilion master to marry her. They disregarded the martial world in the lower realm and humiliated the dignity of the martial world in the lower realm. We martial artists would rather break than bend our backs. We hereby swear that we will join forces to suppress the mysterious heaven realm, return justice to us, and defend our dignity. The words were signed, Kunlun Devil Cult, Moon-Worshipping Cult, Celestial Master Abode, Eastern Qi, Western Chu, Northern Yen, Chunyang Dao Sect, True Martial Cult, Shangshui Ying Clan, Sword King City. The long list of names made Feng Yu dizzy. He only knew one thing, and that was that things had gotten out of hand. Chapter 1428. Ever since the Daoist warriors came to the lower realm, they had been doing one thing, and that was to downplay their purpose of coming to the lower realm and downplay their invaders attribute. In fact, the Daoist warriors coming to the lower realm was an invasion. They occupied the territory of the lower realm pugilistic world and robbed their disciples. If this wasn't an invasion, what was? However, the lower realm pugilistic world was not the Daoist barbarians of 10,000 years ago. They had strength and people, so the Daoist could not really invade. If the Zenith Heaven really invaded the lower realm forcefully, they would indeed be able to win. However, the problem was that the disciple that they had snatched over. Did anyone know what he was thinking? Were they not afraid that they would betray them and completely destroy the sect? Thus, ever since they descended to the lower realms, the celestial absolute plane had been proclaiming that they were of the same origin, that they were one family, and so on. This was all to dilute the nature of invaders, allowing the cultivators of the lower realms to join them. The Heavenly Luo Treasure Temple had done the best. It had directly taken the Great Light Temple and the Heavenly Luo Treasure Temple in the lower realm, and its strength had skyrocketed. Now that this document had appeared, the mysterious heaven realm had completely become enemies with the lower realm pugilistic world. It had become a tyrannical invader. Most importantly, not only had it angered the lower realm pugilistic world, but it had also offended the Daoist forces. People were good at dividing their attributes. If you were a Daoist, he was a Buddhist. If you were a righteous Dao, he was a demonic Dao. But now that such a thing had happened, there were only two kinds of people, celestial absolute heaven martial artists and lower realm martial artists. It didn't matter if the mysterious heaven realm caused trouble, but the other Daoist sects were still developing well in the lower realm. The Star River Martial Arts Academy had recruited many disciples, and the other Gu Zun lineages had also established their sects in the lower realm. The Heavenly Luo Treasure Temple had even prepared to train Su Yun and the others as official disciples. But the mysterious Heaven Realm had stirred up trouble here, causing the relationship between the Daoist warriors and the lower realm warriors to be at odds. What was its intention? It deserved to be killed. Therefore, the moment this document appeared, the mysterious Heaven Realm had offended both sides. Feng Yu was not an idiot. He broke out in a cold sweat. Putting down the document, Feng Yu shouted, "Master! There was definitely a problem here. When I went to the Vermilion Bird Pavilion, I had already investigated it." The Vermilion Bird Pavilion's presence in the martial arts world in the lower bound was extremely low, and it did not have a powerful backer or relationship. Even if I went too far, it was impossible for me to cause such a big impact. There's definitely a conspiracy behind this. Someone is definitely trying to stir up trouble. Bai Yuchen snorted coldly. Do I need you to tell me that? Other than the Kunlun Devil cult, which other sect in the lower realm would have such courage and strength? But what could you do even if you knew? Chu Xiu made it clear that he wanted to make a big deal out of this, and you gave him a good excuse to do so. Now, he has stirred up the whole martial arts world in the mortal world. Feng Yu opened his mouth but didn't dare to say anything in the end. What he wanted to say was that the main reason why the matter had become so big in the end was because of Bai Yuchen. If he hadn't schemed against Chu Xiu by suppressing the Celestial Master Abode, how could Chu Xiu have made such a big deal out of it? Bai Yuchen had never imagined that Chu Xiu was the only one who gave the conditions for others to choose, but no one had ever made him choose. Chu Xiu would not choose. He would only smash everything and let others do things according to his rules. At this moment, a disciple rushed in from outside and shouted, "Sect Master, this is bad. The entire mysterious Heaven Realm is being swarmed by martial artists from all directions. Our mysterious Heaven Realm is completely surrounded by them." Bai Yuchen's expression changed immediately. Chu Xiu did not give them a chance to prepare or explain at all. As soon as the document was sent out, he had already led his people to make a move. This meant that he had already made preparations. The document was just an excuse. It was a reason for the Daoist forces and the martial arts world in the mortal world to see. Send a message to the Three Pristines Temple immediately. Tell them that the mysterious Heaven Realm has been framed. It was Chu Xiu who deliberately provoked the conflict between the Daoist and the martial arts world in the mortal world. He is vicious and wants to destroy the foundation of the Daoist. The rest of the disciples, move out and activate the formation. Follow me to fight. Bai Yuchen was an expert at the eighth heaven. He had been in charge of the mysterious Heaven Realm for so many years, so he could be considered to have experienced a lot. In this situation, there was no other way but to deal with it head-on. At this moment, outside the mysterious Heaven Realm, countless warriors from the lower realm had already surrounded the mysterious Heaven Realm. The experts of the Kunlun Devil cult under Chu Xiu stood at the forefront. Shang Tianliang, Lu Fengxian, Lu Jianghe, Wei Shuya, Chen Qingdi, Su Tianya, Fang Baidu. Including Chu Xiu, there were a total of 8 martial immortals. This was definitely enough to wrestle with the top Daoist sections. Moreover, this did not include the people from the High Heaven sect and the Imperial Sky Pavilion. Although the two sects were attached to the Kunlun Devil cult, this time they were going to attack the Daoist sects, so Chu Xiu did not bring them with him. As for the other martial artists, the experts from the sects of Eastern Qi, Western Chu, and Northern Yen had gathered. The major sects such as the Celestial Master Mansion, the Moon-worshipping cult, the True Martial cult, the Shangshuaying clan, and the Sword King city also stood at the forefront. This could be said to be the most united martial artists in the mortal world. Even when Chu Xiu rebuilt the Kunlun Devil cult in the past, there were not so many people in the Righteous Path Alliance. Some people knew that the incident with the Vermilion Bird Pavilion was a deliberate excuse by Chu Xiu, but others did not know. But it did not matter. Ever since the Daoist sects came to the mortal world, the sects and forces in the mortal world had been treading on thin ice. Some people chose to join the Daoist forces, but those who did not want to join the Daoist sects and wanted to maintain the integrity of their heritage had to be careful. They had to be very cautious about anything related to the Daoist forces. Now that Chu Xiu's document had been issued, all the martial arts forces in the mortal world had united. For them, it was as if they had found a place to belong. Whether it was the Righteous Path, the Devil Path, the Taoist sect, or the Buddhist sect, at this moment, the only label on them was that of the martial arts forces in the mortal world. Lu Jianghu stood beside Chu Xiu. He suddenly sighed and said, "I really didn't expect that one day our holy sect would have such prestige and be able to gather so many martial arts forces. TSK, what happened to the saying that the Righteous Path and the Devil Path are irreconcilable? You say no, but your body is very honest." Chu Xiu said lightly, "There has never been such a thing as the Righteous Path and the Devil Path being irreconcilable. There is no absolute right or wrong in this world. Today, my goal and their interests are the same, so of course they have to listen to me. In other words, if from now on, our holy sect is open to the outside world. We can take all the cultivation methods at will, distribute all the pills for free, and don't interfere in any Jianghu affairs, then we will not be the holy sect anymore. The whole Jianghu will treat us as the real, holy sect." Lu Jianghu shook his head when he heard that. "Forget it. What kind of holy sect is that? It's just a sucker. I guess it won't be long before it's emptied." Chu Xiu did not continue to talk nonsense with Lu Jianghu. He said in a deep voice, "Where is Pavilion Master Su of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion?" "Master, he's here." Yi Shao held Su Qiudong's hand as they walked out from the crowd. "Pavilion Master Su, you should know what's going to happen next. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion is the main character this time. The whole mortal world is here to stand up for you. Don't worry and come out. We will be your support." Su Qiudong quickly nodded and said, "Cult Master Chu, don't worry. Mr. Yi has told me about this." Watching Yi Shao holding Su Qiudong's hand as they walked down, Chu Xiu touched his chin and said in confusion, "The two of them are together? How long has it been?" Mei Qinglian, who was standing to the side, said in a tone as if she had never heard of love at first sight. Chu Xiu continued to ask in confusion, "But I heard that Su Qiudong refused to be Feng Yu's cultivation partner. Why is she with Yi Shao now?" Mei Qinglian snorted. "I've seen the information on Wind Sweeping Tower. Feng Yu is not looking for a cultivation partner. He's looking for a servant. If he didn't have the mystic heaven mirror behind him, he would have been slapped in the face. Great Cult Master Chu, you still don't understand women. You can conquer the world with your fists, but can you chase after women with your fists? Yi Shao is half a disciple of yours. He admires you to the extreme. Not only did he learn martial arts from you, but he also learned how to do things from you. Luckily, he didn't learn from you when it comes to chasing after women. Otherwise, his Yi family would have no descendants." Chu Xiu coughed and snorted. He was here to do serious business, not to discuss this kind of problem with Mei Qinglian. With one step, Chu Xiu's figure appeared in the sky above the mystic heaven mirror. The formation was unsheathed, and the saber gleam streaked across the sky. In the blink of an eye, all the nomological powers were distorted. It was as if the entire world had been forcefully split into two by Chu Xiu's saber. A loud explosion was heard. The formation above the mystic heaven mirror started to tremble violently under the saber gleam. In the end, it exploded on a large scale. If it was the Daoist mystic heaven mirror, Chu Xiu wouldn't have been able to completely tear it apart with one slash. However, after descending to the lower realm, the mystic heaven mirror didn't have much time to set up the sect's formation. This formation was only for the mystic heaven mirror to keep up appearances. It was very fragile. Bai Yuchen, come out and die. Chu Xiu's voice resounded through the void, echoing like the howling of the wind and the roaring of thunder. The martial artists below had mixed feelings, especially those who had joined the alliance of the righteous sects in the past and participated in the siege of the Kunlun devil cult. Seeing Chu Xiu's power now, they completely understood that they and Chu Xiu were already in two different worlds. They weren't even afraid that Chu Xiu would take revenge on them. It was very simple. At Chu Xiu's level, it would be too degrading for him to still remember the little grudges of the past. However, they were allies now. Chu Xiu represented the entire martial arts world in the lower realm. The stronger Chu Xiu was, the stronger the martial arts world in the lower realm would be. Chapter 1429. The Mystic Heaven Realm was ranked second among the Daoist sects in the northern region. In the southern or eastern region, it was enough to stand at the peak. All these years, the Mystic Heaven Realm had never been attacked. This was the first time. Humiliation. With a furious roar, boundless black water surged out, directly covering half of the sky. Bai Yuchen stepped on the black water and shouted, Chu Xiu. What are you trying to do? Are you only willing to let rivers of blood flow between the martial arts world and the Daoist world? Chu Xiu let out a long laugh and shouted sternly, rivers of blood? Today, we will fight for the dignity of the martial arts world in the lower realm. Even if rivers of blood flow, we will not hesitate. As martial artists, we cultivate our bodies, nourish our minds, and comprehend the world. With the strength of humans, we seek strength that is comparable to an earth immortal. Why? It is so that we will no longer bow our heads to any existence in this world. The earth cannot suppress us, and the heavens cannot stop us. Now, the mystic heaven realm wants to suppress us and act like a tyrant. What right do you have? After cultivating martial arts for a lifetime, no one wants to become a coward. Today, we are here for rivers of blood, for the dignity of the martial arts world in the lower realm. Chu Xiu's words were loud and clear, resounding in everyone's ears. It made the martial artists of the lower realm feel their blood boil, and they kept roaring. The old celestial master looked at Bai Yuchen with a hint of sympathy. What are you talking about? Why don't you just start fighting? Chu Xiu was famous for his ability to stir up people's hearts and stir up trouble in the lower realm. If you asked him to speak, he could even turn black into white, not to mention that the matter in the mystic heaven realm was already quite dark. Originally, it was a fight in the pugilistic world, with grudges and conflicts. But now, Chu Xiu had completely turned it into dignity and righteousness. Bai Yuchen was about to go berserk. He explained loudly, who wants to ride roughshod over the martial arts world in the lower realm? The matter with the Vermilion Bird Pavilion was just a misunderstanding. It's true that my disciple wanted the Vermilion Bird Pavilion's secret technique, but it was just a transaction. He wants to marry Vermilion Bird Pavilion's pavilion master Su, but he also wants to become Dao companions with her. Isn't that normal? Chu Xiu waved his hand, and Su Qiutong of the Vermilion Bird Pavilion stepped out from the crowd. The Vermilion Bird Pavilion was named so. Most importantly, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion stood aloof from worldly affairs, but they still had dealings with the major sects in the Jianghu and had connections. Furthermore, all of their members were women, so it was easy for them to attract sympathy. At this time, if Chu Xiu stood out and said that the mysterious heaven realm had bullied him, not to mention sympathy, some people might even applaud. Standing before the gazes of the many martial immortal level experts, Su Qiutong heaved a sigh of relief. Although she rarely stepped into the Jianghu, she had been in charge of a large sect like the Vermilion Bird Pavilion for so many years, so she was quite decisive. Su Qiutong said loudly, Headmaster Bai said that this matter is a misunderstanding, but I don't think it's a misunderstanding. How could the secret techniques of their own sect be taken out and traded so casually? If someone wanted to trade the mysterious heaven realm's core Tao scriptures, would you agree? Also, although I, Su Qiutong, am a woman, I am also the leader of a sect. I never thought I would be humiliated like this. I can only lament my lack of strength. What's the difference between me and those women who were robbed? Your disciple, Feng Yu, only gave me 5 days. These 5 days are only a choice. I don't even have the right to refuse. After 5 days, the Vermilion Bird Pavilion will no longer exist in the Jianghu. The mysterious heaven realm, a large sect from the Jianghu, is so mighty, so domineering. They decide the life and death of a sect with a single word. My Vermilion Bird Pavilion can't even withstand a single blow from them. In front of a martial immortal level expert, my strength is no different from a weak woman. So, today, I can only ask everyone to save my Vermilion Bird Pavilion for the sake of our friendship in the past. Su Qiutong added oil to the fire as she recounted what happened in the past. This instantly caused many of the cultivators in the Jianghu to be filled with righteous indignation. In the past, there were many killings in the Jianghu, and many forces even thought it was normal. If the Vermilion Bird Pavilion was threatened by any force from the Jianghu, most people would remain silent. They would even curse in their hearts, saying that the person who attacked the Vermilion Bird Pavilion was too despicable, actually attacking a woman, and so on. But now, the person who attacked was a Daoist sect. This made them feel like they were facing a common enemy. It was as if their woman was being bullied. Feng Yu stood up and scolded, B***tch. You're talking nonsense. When have I ever threatened you like this? Su Qiutong pretended to be frightened and immediately took 2 steps back. She was hugged by Yi Shao. This made Feng Yu so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He was the heir of the mysterious heaven realm, and he wanted to take her as his cultivation companion. Yet, he didn't agree and even said that he was a bully. In the end, in just a few days, this woman actually threw herself into someone else's arms. This was a complete humiliation to him. Chu Xiu said coldly, "What? You dare to threaten me in front of me? You don't even take the martial arts world of the lower realm seriously." Bai Yuchen looked at the warriors from the lower realm who had gathered around him. He let out a long breath and stared coldly at Chu Xiu. He said in a deep voice, "Chu Xiu, I've underestimated you. I've lost this round. I only wanted to use the Celestial Master Abode to force you to hand over the Tao scripture, but I didn't expect you to dare to make things so big and directly provoke a war between the upper and lower realms. I can't bear this karma. I admit defeat. I don't want the Tao scripture of the myriad Tao heavenly palace. I will compensate the Celestial Master Abode. At the same time, the mysterious heaven realm will seal itself for 10 years. Be it the Daoist or the lower realm, we will no longer participate in the conflict. Are you satisfied?" Although Bai Yuchen looked confident in front of the 3 pristine hall previously, he was really afraid at that moment. Chu Xiu was King lunatic. For such a small matter, he had stirred up the entire martial arts world of the lower realm and provoked a conflict between the Daoist and the lower realm. If things went wrong, it would be a bloodbath in the pugilistic world. In the face of such a huge scene, Bai Yuchen was terrified. He really couldn't bear this karma. Even though the 3 Pure Palace had promised to support him, Bai Yuchen couldn't bear such a huge karma. Chu Xiu shook his head. He didn't send a voice transmission. Instead, he lowered his voice so that only he and Bai Yuchen could hear it. "Sect Leader Bai, you're the sect leader of the mysterious heaven realm and an 8th heaven martial immortal expert. How can you be so naive? Are you afraid after seeing such a huge commotion? Do you want to admit defeat? If admitting defeat was useful, why would there be so many disputes in the pugilistic world? I've put in so much effort to create such a huge commotion, but it ended so anticlimactic. I can agree to it, but will the celestial master abode agree to it? Will the martial arts world of the lower realm agree to it? Sect leader by, it's too late. There would definitely be a battle between the Daoist and the martial arts world of the lower realm. In fact, the Taoist master and the leader of the Sanskrit sect had already expected this. The reason why they asked you to stop before they left was because they knew that no one but them could suppress this battle. Now that the saber has been unsheathed, it can't be put back. I, Chu Xiu, am the one who unsheathed the saber, but unfortunately, I'm not an expert at the ninth heaven like the Taoist master, so I can't put the saber back. In every great era, there will always be people who shed blood and sacrifice. Sacrificing your mysterious heaven realm in exchange for the Daoist and the martial arts world of the lower realm to redefine the rules and create a prosperous era of martial arts. Sect leader by, your death in the mysterious heaven realm is worth it. Bai Yuchen felt cold all over. He understood that from the moment Chu Xiu began to plan this matter, he had no intention of leaving the mysterious heaven realm any chance of survival. After thinking it through, Bai Yuchen no longer held any hope. The black light around him flickered and turned into a black water domain that covered the entire sky. At this moment, the great darkness sky and the entire mysterious heaven realm were plunged into complete darkness. Chu Xiu. If you want my mysterious heaven realm to die, you won't have a good time either. Today, even if my mysterious heaven realm turns into a river of blood, I will still completely cripple your Kunlun devil cult. Don't forget, my mysterious heaven realm is not your only opponent. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, it's a life and death struggle. Unfortunately, the net of your mysterious heaven realm can catch fish, but can it catch dragons? If you want to fight to the death, you're not qualified. As soon as Chu Xiu's voice fell, he had already used the law embodiment of heaven and earth. In an instant, his huge figure rose into the sky and formed a cross-shaped lotus seal. Bright Buddha's light instantly bloomed, tearing the black water absolute domain apart, allowing the sunlight to shine again. Kill! Under the light, following Chu Xiu's fierce shout, the martial arts sects in the lower realm, led by the old celestial master, Yi Shaonan, and other experts, directly attacked the mysterious heaven realm. Excluding Bai Yuchen, there were only 5 martial immortals in the mysterious heaven realm, while the number of people in the lower realm was almost double. As for the disciples of other realms, the martial arts sects in the lower realm were several times more powerful than the disciples in the lower realm. It should be known that those who came here were the elites of the major sects, and some were even existences at the level of the leaders. In the past, they naturally would not have dared to attack the mysterious heaven realm. But now, with so many experts leading the attack, their courage had multiplied. Chu Xiu used the law embodiment of heaven and earth to form a saber body to break the formation. The saber light that traversed the heaven and earth slashed down. One of the 7 limits, the Heaven Devourer, had even been displayed by Chu Xiu with a power that was comparable to destroying the world. This saber technique was originally suspected to be related to the ancient demon god. At this moment, when Chu Xiu used the law embodiment of heaven and earth to execute the Heaven Devourer, its power increased by 30%, and 30% was unique to Chu Xiu's saber power. Bai Yuchen had once fought with Chu Xiu in the Myriad Dao Heavenly Palace, which was why he knew how terrifying Chu Xiu was. However, Bai Yuchen did not use his full strength at that time. At that time, both sides were just fighting for treasures, but this time, it was a life-and-death battle. Previously, Bai Yuchen had to divide his attention to take care of the other mysterious heaven realm warriors, but this time, he was no longer qualified to be distracted. In a life-and-death battle, all the mysterious heaven realm disciples had to fight with their lives on the line. Who could care about others? Therefore, this time, Bai Yuchen finally unleashed his ultimate power and fought with his life. Chapter 1430. Chu Xiu had never come into contact with Bai Yuchen when he was in the Daoist. However, regardless of his various identities, Bai Yuchen was a very tolerant person. The mysterious heaven realm lay dormant under the three pristine palace. It could either resist or completely surrender. However, Bai Yuchen chose not to resist, but he would not completely surrender either. Instead, he endured and accumulated his strength. For example, Zheng Tai and Huo Gongbi of the Three Pristine Palace were both eighth heaven martial immortals like him. Sometimes, they would mock and ridicule him, but he was able to endure it. This was tolerance as a person. He had also been enduring in terms of strength. In midair, Bai Yuchen formed hand seals and the absolute Blackwater domain appeared around him once again. However, this time, it did not envelop the world. Instead, it turned into boundless black water that condensed under his feet. The Dharma of Emperor Xiantian rose from beneath his feet. Bai Yuchen stood on top of Emperor Xuantian's Dharma idol. There was a strange force around him that connected him to the Dharma idol beneath him. Chu Xiu frowned. He felt that something was wrong. Emperor Xiantian was a god worshipped by the mysterious heaven realm. Although this god was not passed down from ancient legends, he had been worshipped by the mysterious heaven realm for so many years. He was no different from the gods worshipped by other sections. Therefore, Bai Yuchen's current actions could be said to be a little disgraceful. One could stand in front of the Dharma of God or in the middle. However, Bai Yuchen was currently standing on the head of the Dharma of God. This action could be said to be very disrespectful. In the next moment, boundless black water surged into Bai Yuchen's body. His body was like a bottomless pit as he absorbed the entire Dharma of Emperor Xiantian into his body. Moreover, this was not a sudden increase in power. It was as if this power originally belonged to Bai Yuchen and he was just taking it back. Bai Yuchen had been hiding his strength all this time, making Zheng Tai and Huo Gongbi think that he was inferior to them. This made the entire Three Pristine Palace lower their guard against him. In fact, with Bai Yuchen's strength, even if he couldn't become a supreme expert of the ninth heavens, he shouldn't be so weak after staying in the eighth heavens for so long. He had fused most of his strength into Emperor Xuantian's Dharma idol and sealed it away to show his weakness. If he did not have the confidence to break through to the ninth heavenly layer, Bai Yuchen would never have used this power. However, Bai Yuchen had no choice in this life and death battle. Chu Xiu sensed that something was wrong. Before Bai Yuchen could completely absorb the power, he directly attacked and slashed at Bai Yuchen with the heaven-devouring saber. The boundless black water blocked in front of the heaven-devouring saber, allowing the saber to devour the flexible power. However, it seemed to be endless, and no matter how much the saber devoured, there was no end in sight. Withdrawing his lawful embodiment of heaven and earth state, Chu Xiu frowned. The Black Water Sutra of the mysterious heaven realm was as hard to deal with as a piece of sticky candy. The power of the black water was not too strong, but it was very tough. No matter how much it was devoured and destroyed, it still existed. He shook the 6 Paths of Reincarnation bracelet in his hand, and in an instant, the 6 Paths of Saga will appeared. The power of the 6 Paths rotated continuously, completely enveloping Bai Yuchen and destroying the power of the black water around him. The lawful embodiment of heaven and earth was a mystique, so it consumed a lot of power. However, the 6 Paths of Saga will was not a mystique. For the current Chu Xiu, the consumption of power was already very small. Both sides would continue to fight and see who could outlast the other. Bai Yuchen's face was very dark. At this moment, it was as black as his black water absolute domain. Chu Xiu wanted to waste time, but he could not afford to, because the mysterious heaven realm was already at a disadvantage. The battle between the martial arts world of the lower realm and the mysterious heaven realm was almost a one-sided situation. The disciples of the Kunlun devil cult under Chu Xiu alone were enough to deal with the mysterious heaven realm, not to mention the martial arts sects of the lower realm. Under the leadership of the old celestial master and Yi Shaonan, everyone attacked in a frenzy. They had already fought their way to the gate of the mysterious heaven realm. The formation at the mysterious heaven realm had been destroyed by Chu Xiu, so they could only rely on some of the trump cards and formation discs that they had brought from the Daoist to resist. However, it was obvious that this would not be able to resist for long. Feng Yu, who was in the mysterious heaven realm, was beaten black and blue by Chen Di. He was vomiting blood, and it seemed that he could not hold on for much longer. Although there were many people in the martial arts world of the lower worlds, only Emperor Chen Di was beating him. According to Chen Di, he hated this kind of guy who bullied women the most. If he did not beat him to death, he would be letting down his fists. Seeing his own sect in such a state, Bai Yuchen finally could not stand it anymore. He let out a long roar, and the boundless black water turned into a long sword that pierced through the heavens and earth, slashing straight at Chu Xiu. At the same time, the boundless black water surged up from under his feet and took the initiative to wrap around the 6 Saha rings of wonder splendor. After absorbing the power that he had sealed in Emperor Xiantian, Bai Yuchen's strength had erupted to the peak of the 8th heaven. At the very least, in terms of aura, he was about the same as Yan Mo, who Chu Xiu had fought in the past. Of course, his combat strength was still slightly weaker. After all, Yan Mo was from the warlike Shiva temple, while Bai Yuchen had to keep a low profile, so he rarely fought with others after becoming the sect leader. As the gigantic sword of black water slashed down, Chu Xiu's third eye opened up on his forehead, summoning the yin-yang essence energy. In an instant, a black and white pillar of light pierced through the void, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. To think that the sword of black water would actually disintegrate. Bai Yuchen made a hand seal, and the boundless black water shrouded him. Emperor Xiantian, bless my body. As the black water condensed, Bai Yuchen's figure could no longer be seen. There was only a huge Emperor Xiantian Dharma idol in black water armor. The Emperor Xiantian Dharma idol punched out, and everywhere it passed, the power of Yin was released to the extreme. Every bit of water vapor in the world turned into black water and surged into it, increasing its power. In the end, the black water turned into black ice, freezing the laws of power and even the primordial spirit. It was as if a giant demon god had walked out of an ancient glacier. It was incomparably terrifying. Under the powerful force, the 6 Saha rings of wonder splendor directly exploded. Bai Yuchen's voice also rang out like thunder. Do you really think that when I was in the Myriad Tao Heavenly Palace, that was my true strength? You're the first person to see this Xiantian battle god idol. It's your honor to die under its fist. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows slightly. This Emperor Xiantian actually had 2 Dharma idols. One was the Dao sect's Emperor Dharma idol, and the other was the current Xiantian battle god idol. No one dared to believe that a standard Daoist cultivator like Bai Yuchen would actually cultivate a close combat technique. Just how deep was he hiding it? However, close combat techniques were also what Chu Xiu was good at. In the next moment, he used the law embodiment of heaven and earth. Chu Xiu's demon god body was not much smaller than the Xiantian battle god idol. Chu Xiu also used the holy demon indestructible body. At this moment, the mysterious physical body technique that combined the power of yin and yang was displayed vividly on Chu Xiu's body. Similarly, when his fist landed, it stirred the void and shook the world. Both of them were extremely powerful. When their fists collided, the entire world trembled instantly. At that moment, the power that erupted from the powerful force had torn the void and shattered the rules. Countless icicles fell, scaring everyone into dodging immediately. They could only dodge and not block. A disciple of the true martial sect thought that the icicles that were like the aftermath of the power did not have much lethality. Hence, he wanted to use his strength to shatter it. However, the result was that he was first frozen into ice by the icicles that were immersed in the rules of power. Then, he was smashed into pieces by the falling icicles. At the realm that Chu Xiu and Bai Yuchen were at, they were almost close to the peak of the power of heaven and earth. Even the aftermath of their attacks was not something that ordinary martial artists could withstand. Hence, the old celestial master immediately began to instruct everyone to disperse and not to take on the aftershock of this power head-on. The lawful embodiment of heaven and earth and the enigmatic divine battle avatar were like two gigantic demonic gods, tearing at each other violently in mid-air. Punches and kicks didn't have any excess variations. Both sides were competing with the limits of their strength and the ultimate understanding of their respective powers. This kind of extremely primitive and simple battle with no possibility of turning the tables was the most testing of one's power foundation. Hence, Bai Yuchen had thought that he would definitely have the upper hand in the beginning. He had endured humiliation for so many years and sealed all his power in the law embodiment of Emperor Xiantian. Now that he had unleashed all his power had already reached the peak of the 8th heaven. Chu Xiu was only at the 6th heavenly layer. Even if his combat strength was astonishing, his comprehension of laws was powerful, and he had all sorts of divine powers and secret techniques. He could fight against an 8th heavenly layer at the 6th heavenly layer. However, why was it that he was gradually being suppressed when it came to power foundation? Bai Yuchen did not expect that Chu Xiu had already used the power of yin and yang as his basic source of power. In this world, if one were to talk about the foundation of power, what could be more profound than the source of yin and yang? The two huge figures that looked like ancient demon gods fought in mid-air. In the end, Chu Xiu gained the upper hand. He pressed the mysterious sky god of war onto the empty space behind the mysterious sky mirror and punched out repeatedly. Every punch caused the earth to shake and the mountains to tremble. It was as if an earth dragon was flipping its body. The entire mysterious sky god of war began to shatter under the bombardment of this power. However, in the next moment, Bai Yuchen made up his mind. The mysterious sky god of war was instantly covered in lightning patterns and exploded. Mysterious sky demon slaying thunder. Even the law embodiment of heaven and earth could not withstand the powerful force of the self-destruction of the law embodiment of heaven and earth. Chu Xiu was sent flying and could no longer maintain the law embodiment of heaven and earth. On the other side, Bai Yuchen was in an even worse state. The powerful backlash had already made him spit out a large mouthful of blood. Chu Xiu said indifferently, "Sect leader Bai, you have lost. Resistance is futile. Just give up. I will leave a seed for your mysterious sky mirror." Bai Yuchen did not respond to Chu Xiu. Instead, he replied to Chu Xiu with a hand seal. In an instant, the entire mysterious sky mirror began to tremble as if something was about to break out of the ground. Chapter 1431. Bai Yuchen knew that he had lost. Ever since he saw Chu Xiu stir up such a huge battle, he knew that he had lost. But losing did not mean that he would give up without a fight. No matter what, Bai Yuchen was still an 8th-level martial immortal. After being in charge of the mysterious heaven realm for so many years, he would not be so naive. He knew what kind of person Chu Xiu was. Ever since he suffered a setback in the Myriad Dao Heavenly Palace, he had started investigating Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu was famous for his decisiveness and ruthlessness in both the Daoist and the lower realms. Very few sects that had enmity with him could survive. Chu Xiu might keep his word and leave a seed for the mysterious heaven realm, but what use would that be? Without the protection of an expert, it would be extremely difficult for the mysterious heaven realm to rise again. So even if he lost this battle and the entire mysterious heaven realm was completely destroyed, he, Chu Xiu, would not have an easy time. As Bai Yuchen formed a series of hand seals, the entire ground was thrown into chaos. A portion of the mysterious heaven realm's martial artists were still relying on their sects to defend, but after Bai Yuchen's actions, they began to abandon their sects and flee. It was unknown what kind of existence was under the ground, but it was actually emitting an eerie cold and baleful aura. Some martial artists accidentally fell into the cracks in the ground and were directly swallowed. Moreover, it was not only martial artists from the lower realms, but also many mysterious heaven realm martial artists who fell into the cracks and were swallowed. Chu Xiu's expression changed slightly. This was definitely not an aura that a human could emit. Instead, it had a trace of a savage aura. A dragon's roar came from below, and the ground completely shattered. A pitch-black azure dragon surged out from the bottom of the mysterious heaven realm sect, roaring between heaven and earth. It was not a flood dragon, but a azure dragon with dragon horns and 5 claws. At this moment, the azure dragon roared to the heavens and the earth. The powerful aura even caused some of the weaker warriors to groan and faint from the dragon's roar. Chu Xiu's eyes immediately narrowed. It was not a real azure dragon. To be precise, it should be a dragon soul. If it was a physical existence, the mysterious heaven realm would not be able to move it from the Daoist to the lower realms. Bai Yuchen took a step forward and stood on the azure dragon's head. A magic array appeared above the dragon's head, rapidly absorbing Bai Yuchen's power and blood essence to create the body of the azure dragon. The power and blood was not enough to form a complete body, but it was enough to form a dragon core in the azure dragon's internal organs. Chu Xiu could tell that something was amiss. He used the lawful embodiment of heaven and earth once again. The array-breaking pill in his hand slashed towards the location of the dragon elixir. Although the soul of the azure dragon had yet to completely condense a physical body, its every move could draw upon the energy of heaven and earth. With a swing of his dragon tail, the powerful force neutralized the power of Chu Xiu's saber attack. Chu Xiu was even somewhat unable to bear it. Bai Yuchen sneered. "It's useless. Now that I've sacrificed the azure dragon's life force, I will die, you will die, the entire Kunlun devil cult and the martial arts world of the lower realms will die." The azure dragon's soul was the last trump card of the mysterious heaven realm. When the ancestor of the mysterious heaven realm had first come to the Daoist, he had joined forces with the 3 Pristines Temple to kill it. This azure dragon was one of the strongest beasts in the Daoist 10,000 years ago. It had been killed with the help of the current Dao Master, the mysterious heaven realm, and several other forces. Originally, the azure dragon's body had been divided among many forces, but the ancestor of the mysterious heaven realm had discovered that there was still a trace of the azure dragon's primordial spirit in the body. This matter had been concealed by the ancestor of the mysterious heaven realm. Over the years, the mysterious heaven realm had been secretly feeding the azure dragon's soul, gradually turning it from a trace of primordial spirit into a complete azure dragon soul. A restriction had been placed on the primordial spirit so that it could be used by the mysterious heaven realm. There was no need to say who the ancestor of the mysterious heaven realm had left such a trump card to deal with. However, Bai Yuchen had not expected that the opponent that the ancestor of the past had imagined would be used on Chu Xiu instead. As the dragon core of the azure dragon's soul was completely formed, its primordial spirit was covered with a layer of scales. However, Bai Yuchen was now withered like a human skeleton. Bai Yuchen laughed wildly. "Chu Xiu. If you want to destroy my mysterious heaven realm, then we will all die together today. If you want to destroy the foundation of my mysterious heaven realm, then the foundation of your Kunlun devil cult will also be destroyed today." In the past, this complete azure dragon was only killed by the combined efforts of several ninth heaven powerhouses. Although it only has the dragon's soul now and can only control a part of its scaly body, it is enough to kill you. Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "In that case, the azure dragon's body is very important to it?" "That's right, so what if it's a azure dragon? The savage beast is also a beast, so its body is indeed very important to it. Without the essence soul secret technique and the mysterious heaven realm's formation to nourish its primordial spirit probably won't last for long. So if I destroy its body, how long can it last with just its soul?" Bai Yuchen laughed wildly. "Slay the azure dragon's body? How arrogant! Although I can't push this azure dragon to its peak state with my strength and vitality, my physical strength is enough to kill you. As Bai Yuchen's voice fell, the withered azure dragon waved his hand. In an instant, the azure dragon roared, and the power of heaven and earth around it danced wildly. It was even the embodiment of the power of the laws. Humans needed to cultivate step by step, from body refinement to chi refinement, then to spiritual refinement and enlightenment. Only by comprehending the laws of heaven and earth and stepping into the martial immortal realm could one control the world. However, the azure dragon was a powerful creature born of heaven and earth. It could control the power of the laws from birth. When the azure dragon appeared, the world changed colors. The clouds followed the dragon, and the wind followed the tiger. The endless dark clouds in the sky surrounded the azure dragon. The black raindrops contained extremely pure yin energy, and each drop weighed thousands of kilograms. All of them lingered around the clouds. As the azure dragon roared, its dragon might was unparalleled. The powerful force not only enveloped Chu Xiu, but also the entire battlefield below. It had to be known that the mysterious heaven realm was still fighting with the martial world of the lower realm. The azure dragon's attack would not distinguish between friend and foe. When that happened, everyone would die. From this, it could be seen that Bai Yuchen really wanted to die together with Chu Xiu, regardless of everything else. Bai Yuchen stood at the back. He wanted to see fear and regret in Chu Xiu's eyes. Previously, he had already admitted defeat, but Chu Xiu was so insistent and unforgiving, forcing him to such a state. So now, he wanted to see if he, Chu Xiu, had any regrets. Did he regret doing things so ruthlessly? But Bai Yuchen was disappointed. There was no regret or fear in Chu Xiu's eyes. There was only endless sharpness. Chu Xiu held the formation breaker in his hand. As the saber light was unsheathed, the entire sky lit up. The bright moon covered the sun, dispersing the clouds. The sharpness of the saber intent turned into a bright moon in the sky. Even the clouds created by the azure dragon's talent were completely dispelled. The clouds parted and the moon shone brightly. The clear sky illuminating shadow. Bai Yuchen had heard of Chu Xiu's saber and knew that it was his strongest divine power, the very, very strong kind. However, Chu Xiu had not used the clear sky illuminating shadow many times. Besides the original god in the original god palace, the others who had tried this move were all dead. So no one knew what it felt like, not even Bai Yuchen. If he had known, perhaps he would not have been so confident. As Chu Xiu's formation breaker slashed out, the sharp moon in the sky was drawn in. Under the moonlight, its sharpness completely enveloped the dragon's body. As the powerful sharpness approached its body, the azure dragon immediately raised its head and roared angrily. It let out an intense roar of pain. Even if it was an ancient wild beast and a natural dragon, it would not be able to escape the clear sky illuminating shadow's attack as long as it had a physical body. The scales on his body that he had just condensed began to crack under this powerful force. However, there was no dragon blood. Only the scales were cracking. As the scales peeled off layer by layer, even the azure dragon's primordial spirit was weakening. Forming a new layer of scales had already consumed a portion of the azure dragon's primordial spirit power. Without the support of the dragon soul, how could the scales regrow? No! No! Bai Yuchen roared in horror. His voice was mixed with despair and disbelief. He could not believe that his last trump card in the mysterious heaven realm, which he had kept to deal with 3 pristine palaces in the future, had been defeated so easily and miserably by Chu Xiu. Before the clear sky illuminating shadow could be used to its fullest, the scales of the azure dragon had already been peeled off. Only the dragon soul and the dragon core were left. Bai Yuchen had a death wish. Even if he used the azure dragon's dragon soul to deal with Chu Xiu, coupled with his own strength, it would still be troublesome for Chu Xiu. After all, Chu Xiu did not have any good methods to deal with the primordial spirit body. But in the end, Bai Yuchen's actions were superfluous. Or rather, it could be said that he wanted to completely destroy Chu Xiu and the Kunlun demon sect. Hence, he chose to use his own blood essence to revive the Azure Dragon's dragon core and dragon scales in exchange for an even stronger destructive force. But in the end, he ended up being completely countered by Chu Xiu's clear sky reflecting shadow. He could feel that his clear sky illuminating shadow had reached its critical point. The third eye on Chu Xiu's forehead bloomed, and the origin power of yin and yang burst out. However, it was not used to attack others. Instead, it was used to suppress his own power. With the third eye, Chu Xiu could now use the origin power of yin and yang at will. However, if he continued to use the clear sky illuminating shadow like before, the consequences of the backlash would be terrifying. Therefore, after using the clear sky illuminating shadow halfway and completely destroying the Azure Dragon scale, Chu Xiu forcibly put it away. At the same time, he moved and arrived in front of the dying Azure Dragon's soul. The 6 paths of reincarnation bracelet moved, and the dragon soul and dragon core were stored inside. You're tuning in to the Unparalleled SwordWill YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.